action in Super League is lit.
So what makes the Super League so good?
Take a look at the...
And it's probably one of the most unique leagues in the world.
The most immersive experience possible.
The great is the competitiveness of it, and the talent that we have now on offer.
There's nothing else in the world like it. It's the most realistic sim racing experience anywhere.
Well, here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen. We're here, we're ready to race, and it could be a decisive one with just 5 rounds of the championship left to go. This could be the race that helps us find out who's going to be the 2020 Super League Drivers' World Champion. A big welcome to everyone watching tonight as we present the Singapore Grand Prix from the Marina Bay Street Circuit here for the 11th round of the GPVWC Super League 2020. I'm Josh Anderson, going to be bringing to the action as always, and alongside me today is none other than Ewan Gale joining us once again. Ewan, pleasure to have you with us. And Singapore really always does throw up a good race, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's been great all the way through the career ladder so far in the last 2 weeks as well. A lot more technical track than what we've seen since the summer break. So a nice bit of a change up of scenery for some of the drivers tonight.
Of course, it's a street circuit. You got to be really awake and alert on one of these. Several Formula One drivers will be able to tell you that much, but it's a difficult one as well. It's seen a lot of changes over the years. The infamous Singapore Slinger feature of this track at one point now being replaced by a plain left-hander, but still a very tricky track to really nail down for a lot of these drivers. So, you know, we're not expecting to see many mistakes, but if it's going to happen, here's a decent place for it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, you know, it's as much a mental or a mentally sort of challenging racetrack than it is a physically challenging racetrack, because it's quite a long lap. So race distance will be longer than the usual of what we've seen this season, and that could play its part towards the end of the race as well.
Yeah, of course. Last time out, remember, it was the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, and that was a very short race compared to what we're used to. It was 53 laps, but it was rain affected. One of the best Grand Prix I've ever commentated on Super League, and we said that about the rat race's predecessor, which is the Belgian Grand Prix as well. That was one of the best races I've ever commentated on. Are we going to be able to make it 3 for 3 at Singapore? Well, I've looked at the weather forecast, and it doesn't appear to be much rain on the horizon. It's supposed to be light rain right now, but given there's nothing happening here on the server, I'd imagine some adjustment has taken place and that there is no rain, but it's 29 degrees on track at the moment, so it could be an interesting one, because the tyre wear around here is going to be an interesting factor as well, obviously, with all the corners. But it's quite a hot day out there in Singapore. Apparently it feels like 31 degrees, so possibly thermal degradation with the amount of consistent corners there is could play its part too, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had some changeable conditions already in the last 2 weeks with some of the career ladder races, and it's really spiced the racing up. Right Kilk just had a bit of an issue going over the bridge. He's ended up having to reverse his way back onto the track, had a bit of a spin out of turn 13. So he's managed to keep it out the wall, and he'll be able to continue. So yeah, we're just waiting for the first laps to come in now. I think Box coming back into the pits.
Chris Butcher's gone off and lost his rear wing and front wing as well. He's going to try and make it back to the pits somehow, otherwise his session will be over. And yeah, this is a really tough track there, and evidently by the looks of it, Yannick Bock has gone back into the pits too. So Bock obviously having made it back. is now going out for another run, having aborted his first run actually, so deciding against obviously continuing. Whether that's because of an off or damage, we don't know, but yeah, interesting one going to be seeing. If brakes are going to fail as any circuit as well, this could be it, because there's a lot of heavy braking sections here. Luckily, there's a lot of runoff for the brakes to fail into.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much every 5 seconds there's a new braking zone and some sort of 90-degree corner coming up at you. So, you've got to be really precise. You've got to be as gentle on the brakes as you can. I think a yellow flag's just out behind Simracing. That would be why there's a car on the wall. Interesting to see both the burst cars really attacking the curbs, and it seems to be that's where they've managed to pick up some pace as Panzer's gone top already.
Of course, the more you ride the curbs, the more you risk hopping the curb. You're hitting an anti-cut, because the anti-cuts are very, very close to the curbs here. Luke getting air and possibly going into the wall. So Kimi Räikkönen did that, I think, back in 2008 at the Singapore Sling. Hit one of the curbs too hard, ramped himself over and hit the wall, ending his race. So you've got to be very careful with the curbs here. And of course, as we said, the brakes, if they fail, they're going to be in trouble as well. I think Germano Zappala, who surprisingly is not driving for YTF1 today, managed to bag himself a Street Fighter drive, the jammy so-and-so. He'll need to watch out for his brake ducts, because historically, he has had a few times this season where brake failures have cost him a lot of positions. So, Germano Zappala in the Street Fighter, that's something I was not expecting for certain. But he's obviously got the call up from YTF1 to drive there, and that will leave Thomas Vack in the number 6 car, I believe, as the sole engine for the team today. And that is a shame that they lost Zappala, primary driver for a lot of the season. But it is a shame, obviously, that he's not driving for them here at Singapore, possibly for the rest of the season, depending on whether this is a permanent move or not. But yeah, this is just really going to hamper the chances even further.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's had a good season so far with Cosmo YTF1, but, maybe some of the development has sort of cost him a bit of time through the season. We haven't seen him up in the top 10 as much as we did at the start of the season. I have to say, I love the colours on that car that we've seen since Belgium. The sort of light greeny yellow and the white, it looks fantastic, especially under the lights in Singapore.
Yeah, of course, we've got several interesting faces on the grid today, of course. Jukka-Pekka Laulu, I've noticed, is in one of the green stripes cars. So, yep, I think that's the green bull, as we colloquially call it. JP Lalu then, going to be interesting to see how he does. I've not seen him on the Superleague grid in a while. In for Fantinati, evidently. So Lalu going to be out to impress today, and he's already in 11, so he's doing all right. Obviously, several familiar faces, the likes of Giuseppe Ragusa, Luke Maguire, Fabrizio Gobi, that sort of thing. Vincent Gut there as well in the hat cape as well. Tom Parker in the Street Fighter, obviously in the car now too. Couple of really interesting moves though, obviously. 2 other teams though, obviously. Germano Zappala, one of them. But looking up and down the grid, guess who's back in Super League? It's Geoffrey Fournier, that's right. He's French, he's Kent, he loves a racing session. He's in for Adonis Engineering because surprisingly, there's no Adam Maguire. What's up with that?
I don't know. And talking of Adam Maguire, his championship rival Box just about to finish a lap. He was fastest through sector 1. Where's he going to turn out? Goes pole by 3/10 so far over Simracing. So that's big for Yannick Bock with Maguire away. But yeah, Fournier back into Super League. Always love watching Geoffrey going around the circuit. It's always a little bit exciting. Seen him have some stellar performances at the start of the season in Super League Light. So let's see what he can do in the Adonis tonight.
To this day, I still remember the very first race that he ever did, I believe, in, or at least one of the ones I first remember commentating on Super League. It was Melbourne 2018, his debut, Epic Racing's debut. And I remember sitting there thinking, if he wins this is going to go down in history as one of the best it did. It really was an amazing, amazing race from Geoffrey Fournier. And while his former team boss is in the comments today, Levi Davidson joining us in the comments saying, Jeff obviously needs his colours vision tested. That car's not yellow. No, it isn't, Lee. Unfortunately, he's racing in the black, blue and orange of Adonis today. But hopefully he'll do as good as he can do. And maybe even possibly be on for the win. He's in 13th in qualifying at the moment. So he'll need to find a bit more pace if he wants to get the win. But he's certainly on course for it as it stands. At the moment, though, it's an Adonis 1-2. Jordan from Bock. And as we rightly said before, Yannick Bock could stand to possibly get one hand on the title at this race because Adam Maguire's not here. A win here would increase his lead from 17 points to 54 points. That is a huge gap for him. And it would mean, theoretically, he can wrap up the driver's title with 2 races to go.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously Jordan and Bocker with Evolution, and interesting to see Jordan's found a lot of pace since the summer break. You know, he really sort of got back to it in Spa, and it's good to see him fighting up the top again, as we know he can do. Interesting to see that the Adonises with Duval and Fournier, obviously Fournier stepping in late, but yeah, they're not on the pace like we usually see with the Adonises. So you know, they need to find some pace quickly as Duval comes over the line, goes P3.
Yeah, certainly very interesting to see, you know, Dennis Jordan so far. They already had a fantastic victory, of course, at the Belgian Grand Prix. And, well, obviously he's always had form, we think. It's just obviously been playing sort of second fiddle to Yannick Bock this season, who, of course, is trying to win his second consecutive World Championship. But, of course, they have been allowed to fight on track, and we have seen that, and it's always been a spectacle. And speaking of spectacles, Robin Panzer, third place at the moment, only a 10th down on Bock and Jordan. Very impressive showing from the Swedes.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the first to set a lap time at the start of the session and went fastest. Only Simracing beat him at the start, then Bock came through. So it's good to see that he's managed to get back into the top three. Simracing's teammate is going to come around the final corner now. Let's see what he can do to improve. I think he was slower in the middle sector, comes across the line and goes P2 by 0.06 of a second.
Indeed. Jenny Simicic as well, obviously Panzer's teammate and reigning Formula Sim Racing World Champion, so really knows his stuff, has had victories in Super League, hoping for another one here today, and if he can get a good start, he could go for it. And Yannick Bock obviously will want to try and usurp that time. The top three separated by 100th of a second as it stands. That's close running. That is the closest I've ever seen a top three in Super League. Absolutely mental stuff. I assume that gap will widen by the end of the session, of course, as drivers eke the last hundredths out of the best time. But this is really proving to be a really close-knit qualifying session thus far.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see what you got your top teams, your Adonis, your Burst, and your Evolutions. They're so much more stable through a final corner. We were just on board with Chaos Makers in the HRT, and he was sliding all over the place as he was trying to plant their throttle out of the final corner. So clearly, plenty of grip for the top three teams, and that's probably why we see them out on top most weeks.
Yeah, Lauren, obviously a very old hand in Super League, been around for a while, hasn't ever really lost his form since he came back, and always a threat for a good position, and really he'll need a good position on the qualifying, but he's 11th at the moment, quite far down here at Singapore, considering how tight the track is.
Yeah, and you've got to think there's only two obvious overtaking places in this track, maybe three if you include turn 1, turn 5, and turn 14, so you know, you've got to make sure that you're giving yourself a chance after qualifying, otherwise you're going to ruin the race straight away as one of the street fighters loses a bit of traction in front of Yannick Bock.
Yeah, of course. I mean, turn 1, obviously there's a chance to go full Danny Kvyat into that turn if you want, but obviously various opportunities to make overtakes happen. Despite it being a street circuit, it's rather wide, so, you know, going 2 by 2 is not usually a problem around here, but it's when another car gets involved that problems start. Okay, Fabio Sixter's gone up to P4. I've just noticed as well, what a lap from him. He's up in the 4th for Mad Cape. That's a 10th off the likes of Jordan, and Sixter is really making that car work for him.
Yeah, that's the Fabio Sixter that I know and love, because, you know, he's been so rapid in the last few seasons, and yeah, back where he probably belongs to be in that Mad Cape.
Yeah, really good stuff from Sixter thus far, and we'll see if he can keep it up the rest of the session. He's probably got another lap or two where he can improve. If he went out the circuit now, but Yannick Bock is also leaving for what should be his last run, as is Simicic. Jordan is already out on track at the moment, and he is on pole position with a 136.895, and it is still just 100th separating the top three. This is insane from the qualifiers here. And of course, the drivers will be lining up for this last lap. I've noticed Jeffrey Fournier has actually gone out the wrong pit door. He actually, instead of going straight on, he tried to U-turn it. They were about a 10 mile an hour, 10-point turn to get around that pit exit. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe something. But Fournier currently P8, so he's gotten up the order too.
Yeah, Thomas Vac just went P15, which will, of course, in the race be the final points-paying position. So good effort for Vac in the Cosmo YTF1. For Fabrizio Gerbi is on a better lap as well. He's just on personal best in Sector 1, coming up to the end of Sector 2. See what he can do in the Fabrizio. Obviously had a good start to the season. Haven't really been fighting up the top as much as they would have liked since. But yeah, let's see what he can do. Looks like he's backed off.
Yeah, Thomas Vack having a really good qualifying on P16 as well. Obviously, that Cosmo YTF1, not the best car on the grid by any means. The team seem to have struggled with development a bit this year, and obviously finances and other things, but a very respectable effort considering they weren't supposed to be in the series at all before the season started. I don't know whether don't know whether Matthew Allen's going to be continuing in the team at 2021. Otherwise, I might have to get my hands stuck in a bit, but get the team out of financial peril. But no, it's been a very respectable year for the team all. And going to be really interesting to see if that can help them up the order by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vac has been pretty impressive in the Super League lights as well. He's got plenty of pace, so absolutely got the talent to be in the Super League. And yeah, fingers crossed he can get some points today for the team.
Yeah, I mean, points would really be appreciated. I think any little helps. As the saying goes in Super League, if you can even score a point, that's a point more than you would have otherwise had. So he'll be hoping for points, and everyone really in and around the top 20 will be thinking that this could be a race for points. And, well, there's a race for pole going on at the moment. Jordan Simracing, Bob, all on flying, all... Yep, they'll all be on the flying laps by now, but none of them have set a purple for their sector. Matty Mlynick in 10th, however, has. He's just done a 26.3, which is 2 seconds faster, 2/10 faster than Jordan did in his sector, and a 10th faster than the likes of Simracing and Bob. Although that's a 37.427 in the second sector, which is not even a personal best. So it may not be pole from Mlynick, but if he gets a good last sector, he could be up there. Jordan has actually just set a purple sector that's perhaps Mlynick is on for pole. We don't know, but it's looking possible at the moment. He's coming around the final chicane, as is Jordan now. Matty Mlynick could be, if he gets a fast sector here, on for pole position. What will the pole do as he crosses the line? It's 7th. It's a 1:37.1. What is it? Well, Dennis Jordan aborts his lap. He won't be going faster. I don't know whether Ernie Simracing will do the same, but he's on to possibly improve. He's done a personal best second sector. So if Simracing can find something here, could be pole for him. He only needs to find 6,000. Bog only needs to find 100. Will he do it? He gets a tail out across the line. And that lap would not have counted even if he'd crossed the line and it had been faster. So it's down to Ernie Simracing now to find out what he will do. Will he get pole position? Yes, he will, by a 10th of a second.
Yeah, great lap from Yerne there. Bock couldn't make it count when he needed to, and obviously he's got a car between himself and Simracing. Of course, Simracing isn't his closest rival in the championship as Kizmekers hits the wall on his final flying lap. But yeah, important.
There's
one of the Street Fighters.
Oh, wowee! Was that Timana Zapala spinning on the start-finish line? Oh, well, he's very lucky that Kizmakers did not hit him before his lap ended. Otherwise, he would have been very angry about that, because that would have potentially impeded his lap. But yeah, he was 100th out on Gobi. He made me think he was a bit. If it had happened earlier, he would have been a bit aggrieved there. That could have cost him P8, but luckily it was on the line when nothing could happen. Canapino was looking to be 10th in amongst all this, but Yerny Simracing, a sudden last-minute pole position. What a result for him, and it's advantage Simracing going into the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, a 10th looks like a big gap when we saw how close it was through the first 14 minutes of qualifying. So really good effort from Simracing there. Yeah, that's a Zapala incident. It really proves how difficult following another car in the dirty air, especially around that final corner, is going to be through the race, especially with everyone bunched up at the start of the race.
Yeah, for comparison, by the way, about the Cosmo YTF1 car, I have the statistics up for upgrade development. And at the moment, the top car is the Abruzzi, which, I say Abruzzi, the quote, Abruzzi, unquote, running in old colours, seemingly for the second race in a row now, is about on 275 development points. The body drag that it uses is the weight, and they're working on diffuser downforce right now. So that's 2 areas of the car that cannot be improved any further, and one that's almost perfect, leads you to about 280 points. For comparison, the next, the sort of middle of the road cars are on about 250, the likes of the Flag to Flags, the Evolution, the Edges, the Basileas. The Cosmo YTF1, 160. That's how far behind they are in development. That is not where they want to be. They're about 2/3 of the pace of development of other cars. So the fact that Thomas Vac has actually managed to qualify in 17th place in that car is really testament to his skill. Not to say the Cosmo YT have not done the right things this season. They've done a valiant job, all things considered, but as Matthew Hansen writing in the chat, finances are practically nil.
Yeah, I spoke to Matthew earlier on in the season, especially after a few of the. I think they had a top 10 and the fastest lap in Paul Ricard, and I spoke to Matthew after the race, and he said that's about as far as we can go now with the finances we got. They knew that it was going to get more difficult towards the end of the season, so anything near points, I think they'll take at the moment.
Yeah, well, put it this way, right? Put it this way. Vac has qualified ahead of Zapala, and Zapala is in a Street Fighter car, which is considerably better than the car that Vac is in. So,
which is Zapala's old car as well, remember?
That's going to be slightly embarrassing for Dimana Zapala, you got to feel. I mean, that Street Fighter is a car that has 261 points of development. Vac's car is 100 down on that, and he's out-qualified, and that's quite something.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it depends on what traffic he got. We saw what Zapala had to deal with. He was right behind the rear wing of another car on his fastest lap at the end there. So, and obviously dropped it in the final corner. So it does tend to, especially around a tight track like this, it does tend to sort of show up what traffic you've got as well. So if Vac managed to find a nice clean bit of air, that might have helped him. Be interesting to see what they do in the race now. You know, they're right in the middle of the pack where you usually see people try the alternate strategy. I think Vac's tried it before and made it work pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, around here, of course, you got to remember it's 29 degrees Celsius. Tire degradation and wear are both going to be issues here. This is a tough track on the brakes, on the tires, not necessarily on the engines, although there is a lot of RPM changing going on, a lot of obviously deceleration and usage of the torque band. So if we look at the engines of the cars, we find some interesting stories there too. Most engines about the 60 to 70% range, so teams obviously think they can get away with a slightly less powered engine there. The exceptions to this are the number 70 Red Archer, which is running a 38% engine. And then there is also, looking up and down, the other Red Archer is on a 37% engine. So Red Archer going for more wear. Edge Esports have gone for more wear on a 44 and a 39 for their cars. And there is also a 39% unit on the Adonis number 4, which is Jeffrey Fournier. So he's running with an engine that's slightly more worn down. And there's a 38 on the number 98 Ghostspeed, which I think is Eros Mashuli. So some drivers think they can get away with a slightly more worn engine here.
Yeah, and especially in Fournier's case, you know, if it is a one-off race with Maguire coming back in, it makes sense to use a worn engine now and maybe keep a nice new one at the end of the season for Maguire if he is going to have a championship assault.
Indeed, and well, obviously on the topic of engines, some teams are on their 6th unit at this point. If they take a 7th or an 8th, it's £1 million fine, because the teams obviously have finances to worry about, and a back of the grid penalty, I believe, for the next race. So this is an incentive to keep your engines in tip-top condition, really, because if you need to take another, there's a penalty in it for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, there's only 4 rounds to go. This is probably out of especially the last 2 races we had, it will be a little bit easier on the engines. And the other thing is it's a street circuit, so it is harder to overtake than your Monzas or your Spas. So it does make sense that maybe people would try and look after the engines a little bit more here, and then use the narrowness of especially Sector 3 to keep the cars behind you, and only really use the engine when you need to on the long run down to Turn 5. So be interesting to see which drivers and which teams can look after their engines the best, especially the guys who have got worn engines. You know, will we see problems for them at the end of the race? Shouldn't, but you never know.
Yeah, we shouldn't. We think the engines are all going to make it. I mean, teams this year have had it kind of easier. It's a 16-race calendar. They only have to make their engines last an average of 2.6 races. So I've seen teams that have made engines last 3. They're going to be fine. You know, if you can make your engine last 3 races, you're going to be fine. So, you know, it's not as much of a problem as it was when we had the likes of an 18-race calendar, where you had to make it last 3 races, possibly even more. But the engine regulations definitely quite liberal this year, you know, in terms of, you know, wear on the engines. Teams able to manage it. And of course, it's a complete engine as well. It's not like an actual real life where the components are split into individual things like turbochargers, battery pack units. It's the entire unit you get to replace instead of just several parts. So, teams, they have more to work with here. It's a bit more forgiving, the engine wear department.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why the teams, and especially certain teams, you can see that they're planning it through the season. You can see what races they're putting new units in and which races they're going back to an old unit maybe. It's all part of the game. They know what they're doing. It does show actually sometimes that the more experienced teams do prosper towards the end of the season. But yeah, clever people involved. They know exactly what they're doing and they know what they need to do to make everything work in one easy, harmonious unit.
Indeed, yes. And wow, it's looking at the engines as well. We talk about wear, but we don't talk about the manufacturers. There are 3 manufacturers this year: Quasar, Valiant, and Reventon. Of course, the individual arms of Edge Esports, Abruzzi Esports, and Adonis Engineering. Those are the 3 works teams for those engine manufacturers. Lots of teams this year plumping for that Reventon engine, of course, developed by Adonis Engineering. Several plumping for the Quasar as well. And I believe, the only team on the grid to not have any teams other than themselves running the engine is that Abruzzi and Valiant combination. They get to dictate their own strategy for the engines, and it's sort of worked because their strategy has been miles away from the other teams, because Reventon and Quasar have largely focused on fuel consumption, which on a track like this is going to help, because fuel consumption obviously increases when you're at peak torque. So, as the engine speed goes up, as peak torque is used, the engine burns more fuel. So they are going to be able to run with less fuel overall, or running higher engine mixes for longer. Valiant have gone for power. They've gone for the mapping, which allows them to run higher engine maps, more boost, which lets them have an overall advantage in terms of speed at tracks like Italy, but they will use more fuel doing it. So there's lots of... Yeah. Neither team has gone for the new upgrades for 2020 in the form of reliability and resiliency, but then again, engine wear has not really been a problem, so I don't suppose they would have needed to do that. So it's gone 2 significant ways here: power or fuel efficiency.
Yeah, and it'll flip-flop between the 2 through the season as well. We've seen Abruzzi have had some really strong performances. Places, I think Canada Gobi did well. That's historically because of the type of circuit it is. You'll use a bit of fuel there. So yeah, it's always interesting to see which way manufacturers go. It looks like power might have edged the battle this year, but yeah, like I said, it's the floss between races and different tracks. You never really know.
Interesting engine strategies this year, and well, it could be interesting to see how it pans out for 2021, because there's possibly going to be another supplier tender opening, obviously, because the Talos tender, which was owned by Hawkeye before they pulled out prior to the season start, that never got off the road. So there should be another tender opening for 2021. It's going to be interesting to see who gets that. Personally, looking up and down the field, I think Evolution might have a shot if they chose to go for it. Obviously, being quite hard up the order. Holland Racing Team might have a shout. Red Archer might have a shout. The likes of Adonis have already got one, obviously, but the likes of, a lot of the established teams might have a chance of making if they wanted to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, Evolution have been fantastic the last few seasons, so would they want to upset the apple cart and change what they're doing? Maybe HRT, who are sort of just a little bit behind the top 3 teams, maybe they might go for it and see what they can do with their own engine. Yeah, like you said, it'll be really interesting to see what people decide to do. Because you get used to doing one thing for a season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons, however long you're with an engine manufacturer. So yeah, that is definitely something to look forward to, especially with only 4 races left this season. We're now starting to get to the stage where we will hear about next season pretty soon.
Indeed, and well, we are going to be thinking about the next season very soon, because obviously we're coming to the end of this one, but going to be really, really good to see how the 2021 season evolved, because the 2020 car has been a fantastic development, really, thanks to obviously race director and chief modder Chris Williamson, who has compiled this car together with help from several other people. But the car has got pretty much universal praise from the drivers. So many of the drivers love the car this year. So I think it'll be evolving rather than being revolutionized in 2021. But definitely be interesting to see how it goes in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, forgetting the drivers for the moment, it's created really good racing. We've had good racing pretty much every single round this season. So that's a big plus point for the car. And, like you said, it will probably be an evolution rather than a complete remake. I don't personally know how they go about that. I don't know what feedback they have from the drivers to improve it, or team managers, or whether it is just the admins deciding which direction they want to go. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, hopefully it'll be an evolution, because the racing's been fantastic this season.
Yeah, it really has been some fantastic racing, and going to be interesting to see how 2021 goes. But we still got 2020 wrap up. So who do you think's going to win? Answers on the postcards in the comments, please. I'll be asking Ewan Gale right now who he thinks he's going to win. So Ewan, hate to put you on the spot, mate, but looking at that grid, who do you think could take victory?
Simracing has got the best opportunity from pole. Obviously, he'll be able to dictate what happens. Obviously, tyre wear can be quite crucial around Singapore. So strategy will probably be key. Simracing can dictate from pole. I'd love to see Sixter do something. I'd really love Sixter in the Mad Cape to be able to produce a little bit of an upset. And obviously, Bock will be looking for the win with Maguire out. I'll probably stick with Simracing because he's got plenty of pace.
Yeah, Yanni Simracing, most certainly a good shot for the race victory here today. I don't blame him for picking him at all. Former race winner, of course. Personally, shot in the dark here, Fabio Sixter. You heard it here first, ladies and gents. So here we go then. Formation lap underway, and if it is going to be Yanni Simracing winning this Grand Prix, he's got work to do, because he will start from pole position and he must hold it. If he holds it, he has a very good chance in taking that race win. But Dennis Jordan, Yannick Bock and Fabio Sixter will be hunting him down like wolves to the feast at the winter service at the restaurant or something. That sounded better in my head than it actually came out. But Robin Panzer will be playing rear gunner for his teammate, that is for certain. And gotta say, Yanni Simracing, very good opportunity if Panzer can really play rear gunner for him, Ewan, and that's going to be his role, you got to think.
Yeah, you would think, but then having said that, we saw in Spa, especially, Bock looked as if he was going to fly away as the lead evolution, and then Jordan came through and got ahead of him. So you've got to really see what happens in the first stint. You never know what's going to happen at the start. Simracing's got to get away from the line first. Panzer might have a really good start from P5. Exciting. You would think that Panzer would be rear gunner, but like I said, you never really know. You've got to wait and see how the first part of the race pans out.
Yeah, really got to see how the first part of this race pans out. And if it pans out badly for Panzer, hopefully it won't though. But if it does, the likes of Devorm, Linek, Gobi, Kiersmakers, Canapino will all be able to capitalise, as is the same for any of the leaders. But Fournier down in 11th is a surprise. That much is for certain. Obviously struggling to adapt to the car coming back, but you can't blame him. It is a tough series, Superleague, and hopefully he'll do better in the race. Obviously, you've got the likes of Ragusa, Mashili, Maguire down there as well. Thomas Vatt in a very impressive 17th, all things considered. Out of his former teammate, Zimano Zapala. Then he got cars like Sergio Harris, Stefan Rell, Tom Parker, who I think will be hoping to either just finish or get to the lower end of the points. And Chris Williamson telling the drivers to close up the gaps. They're going too slowly. Come on, guys, get a shift on.
Yeah, that will mean that Simracing will be sitting at the start, at the front of the grid for a long time, so they need to close that gap up and we can get racing ASAP.
Indeed, and it's very rare that happens here. Usually the driver's very good at keeping the gaps nice and close, but Chris Williamson just giving them a gentle shove and asking them, can you get to the grid a bit quicker, please? We want to go racing. The drivers are going to do a lot of stuff on this formation lap. Warm the tyres, warm the brakes, you can't blame them for taking the time. But ultimately, if there's lots of gaps between cars, that's problematic because, well then, it's just going to cost more time to get onto the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. And the effects of that probably aren't as exaggerated here as they are at other tracks because it's a pretty short run down to turn one. So you haven't really got, if you do make a poor start because you haven't warmed your tyres up as well as you should have, you haven't got that long to get to turn 1 to the apex, and it should save you from people just flying past you.
Yeah, that would be obviously a benefit. So, brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to get interesting once again. The two red arrows lining up the back of the grid are about to pull into their pit boxes, and the race is about to get underway. It's going to be Simracing on the left, Jordan on the right. Clash of the Titans into turn 1. Will we see any turn 1 drama? If it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen here at Singapore, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hold your horses, hold your stirrups. We got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Pause. Go! Good start from Simracing, good start from Jordan as well. Sixter gets a blinder. He's into 3rd before we even hit turn 1. And the car streamed through the first corner. There's a little bit of contact between a couple of cars, but remarkably clean. And then it goes wrong in turn 2. There's a car off. I see a rear wing. That's Vac who lost his front wing. Thomas Vac has gotten involved in the chaos. He is Sans front wing at the moment. A couple of cars got tangled with each other at the back, but the front is clean. The front is where we want to see. And Sixter shooting for 2nd.
Yeah, Sixter's had an absolute flyer to get past Yannick Bock, and Bock was right in the clutches of Deval down into turn 5. Deval and Panzar got a bit of contact through turn 3, and then obviously the chaos happened behind them. Terrible luck for Thomas Vac. But yeah, clean start.
Oh, more problems. I hear more debris at the back of the field there. Something has happened at the back of the field. I hear more debris. That's Canapino. Augustin Canapino has been forced to the inside. I don't know whether there's any damage, but there has been a pretty chaotic first lap here at Singapore. Martin Leineck has got the old Formula Ford going on.
Fournier.
Dan, front wing and rear wing, and Jeffrey Fournier as well getting involved in the drama too. That is unfortunate for the Frenchman. He's got the old Formula Ford going on too. I don't have replays enabled, so I can't find out what happened. You'll have to do that for me, Ewan Gale.
Yeah, it's Canapino and Leineck have got into each other, and Fournier's sort of come to the party late on and got himself involved. So I think Leineck's got the most damage. I think he's got a bit of suspension damage as well. Fournier's just got rear wing damage. See if they can get back to the pits to fix that. But Leineck is really crabbing down the straight. There's no chance that he'll be able to continue, I'm sure.
It seems like I've cursed everyone and their mother already. Augustin Canapino's out of the race. Martin Leineck and Jeffrey Fournier have got no wings on their cars. Thomas Vac has got no front wing. Everybody I spoke highly of has already crashed. Well, that's unfortunate. And I think there was another car coming into the pits as well. It's Luke Maguire, who's also got no front wing. What's going on?
Yeah, and Kilk's in the pit lane as well, I think. So plenty of drama on lap 1. Interesting to see who's gone on what tyres for the start of the race. I think the leading person on the alternate strategy is Giuseppe Ragusa at 8th for Abruzzi.
Yeah, Giuseppe Ragusa in the, quote, Abruzzi, unquote, is doing a fairly good job in P8 at the moment. If he's on an alternate strategy, this could really work out. This could really, really work out for him. And, definitely going to be an interesting one for here.
Yeah, what we're going to see here that we haven't seen in Monza and Spa is if you do make an early pit stop, if you're one of the front runners on the softs, and you get stuck in traffic, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get through than it has been in the last few circuits. So really tyre strategy and pit lane strategy, pit stop strategy is really going to be key in order to filter out into a clean bit of air, and that will dictate whether people are going to be able to undercut, overcut, or whatever they fancy.
Yeah, undercut, overcut, whatever you want to do. And that is going to be really the call of strategy for these guys here in Singapore. What are they going to do? What will they choose in terms of their strategy? Time will tell. Obviously, the only one on the alternate and the top 10, Giuseppe Ragusa. Well, I say that, but Jack Mayer's moved up to P10. That is a great run from him at the start.
Yeah, excellent start for Jack Mayer. Obviously, his teammates had a bit of problem, but he's on the alternate strategy as well. Just looking down, actually, I think his Rualt is the only person who's on the hardest of the tyres, so it'll be really interesting to see what he can do in the HRT. Kersmaker's his teammate way ahead, up in 7th.
Yeah, Kersmaker's P7 at the moment. Kersmaker's doing a very good job of that P7 too. He's managed to pull out a decent gap to Ragusa, though Ragusa has DRS. Which is active, remember, it's lap 3. And Giuseppe Ragusa going to push hard, but he's got to close that gap because the DRS here, not as effective as he would have liked to have thought it would be. And that's the case for all the drivers, of course, because the straights aren't as long as you want them to be.
No, and interesting to see the two Abruzzi's. They've got the Giuseppe Ragusa in front on the alternate strategy and Gobbi behind. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep it that way. Really, Gobbi needs to get ahead and try and make some moves if he's going to be pitting earlier.
Yeah, indeed. Going to see if any early pit stops do happen. The undercut here could be potentially very useful because you'll be on fresher tyres sooner, and around these corners that will really help traction, really help all the variables that help a car go around the corner. And Fabio Sixta, speaking of cornering, is doing it very nicely. He's still holding that P3 from Bach. This has been a phenomenal start from Fabio Sixta in the man cave.
Yeah, absolutely, and fastest first sector of the race. Obviously, we've got DRS this lap, so not that much of a surprise, but still 4/10 faster than Dennis Jordan was through sector 1. A bit slower through sector 2, so I don't know whether he's suffering a little bit from the dirty air already. But yeah, if he can hold there and then, like we said, see what he can do with pit stop strategy, could be a really good result for Madcape and Sixter.
Well, we'll have to see if we can pull it off, of course. The likes of Duval and Bach may have something to say about that. They're chasing hard as well. As we come onto lap 4 here, Robin Panzer down to P6, so already dropped the place based on his starting position. Keersbeck is holding firm in 7th, and Ragusa charging nicely in 8th too. Gobi, his teammate, is behind in 9th, so a top 10, double top 10 on for Abruzzi at the moment, which is great for them. Jack Mir hauling up the rear of that train in 10th place, and he's got a fair gap now. Then it's Moose, Saratino, Lalu, and Parker in the top 15. So those are your point scorers. You can pick a Lalu, not doing bad by any means of the imagination.
No, absolutely. And you have a look at some of the people who started right towards the back of the grid as well. They've kept themselves out of trouble and got up into the top 20. Then looking at the two red arrows, Butcher and Fike.
Indeed, apologies for people watching the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Our timing tower seems to have gone on strike, unfortunately. So we can't bring you the live standings from the tower, but we have got Race View, which is our provider of that, up on another screen here. So I can tell you that the gap between Jordan and Timothy is about half a second at the moment.
As it comes back up.
As it's just come back up, so there you go. I told it off and it works now.
Yeah, nice to help you out there, Josh, wasn't it? Always, it's a bit like you at the start. You said that we had a clean start, and that's when the crashes started. Ragusa's all over the back of Keersmackers for 7th and 8th. They're really sort of in straight line formation. There's no one able to make a move at the moment. Kind of expected this round here, to be honest, and this is why we were saying that saving your tyres and maybe doing something towards the end of the stint will probably pay dividends coming under the race.
Yeah, indeed, and really at this point saving the tyres could help you in the late stage of the race. And if there's any two people at the front of this grid who know how to save tyres, it's Dennis Jordan and Yerny Simitic. The two tyre whisperers are at the front of the grid, and that's going to help them in the long run because everyone else is going to have to push harder to keep up with their pace, and they're saving their tyres most likely.
Yeah, and what that does is it means that they're not pitting into traffic as well like everyone else will. So that should take away the undercut round here and really help them stay in first and second on the road.
Yeah, we know that they're very good at managing the tyres. We've seen that throughout the season, often part of their strategies. Fabio Sixter, I imagine, might be trying an undercut if he knows that. And Yannick Bock, obviously the teammate of Dennis Jordan, will know that. So he'll be trying to play rear gunner for him as best as he can. If Liam Duval gets through, obviously he might have a shot at Sixter and then Jordan. But Duval is having a firm start to this race as well. He's having a good, solid start here. I'm looking at Giuseppe Ragusa, who has been hounding Laurent Keersmackers for some time now, and they're both quite close to Robin Panzer. Maybe a move could happen soon.
Yeah, I don't know whether either Duval or Panzer have damage after they came together at turn 3 on the opening lap. They've kept a decent pace since, so it would indicate maybe not, but that might change as the race goes on. Fingers crossed they're all okay. And it looks like Simracing has got a decent gap at the front. He's controlling the race well, and Jordan's just happy to sit behind at the moment.
Yeah, we're looking out the rear wing of Simracing. We come across the start-finish line, start lap 6 here. You can see exactly where Jordan is and how hard he's trying to keep up with him. And behind, of course, you can see Fabio Sixter as well. So that rear wing camera of Simracing showing us just how much he's having to fight these two off, even though the fight. He makes one mistake and they are going to be right on him.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is what we were saying before the race as well. It's as much a mental challenge as it is a physical one. You've got to keep your temperament in check and make sure you don't make any silly mistakes. And if you do make a mistake, make sure you forget about it straight away and just crack on with the job at hand. Because yeah, if you just cost yourself more places than just the one if you do find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, these drivers really giving it the beans. Michael Francesconi, of all people, a former Superleague driver himself, in the comments saying, everybody save your tyres. You know, he knows that this is a tyre hard track and he knows they're going to have to do some tyre saving at some point. Jordan and obviously Simracing will be leading the field in that regard, as they are leading the field in the actual race standings. But the likes of Sixter, Bok, Deval and Panzar need to start thinking about that too. Because if their tyres go off, they're going to drop down the order and they're going to have to come in to get those tyres replaced. And tyre longevity around here is going to really make all the difference, because fresher tyres at the end of the race will mean more chance of winning it because you can put more power down.
Oh yeah, exactly. This is what Simracing has been so good at so far this season. You know, he manages sometimes even to go 5 laps longer than some of the guys you put earlier, like your Box and your Maguire. So yeah, see what he can do. There's another street fighter, I think it was Tom Parker, getting really squiggly coming through the final sector, and that's not going to help your tyres at all as you're following your Quebec Lally.
All that's going to do is make them cry out in anguish, making them slide across the road like that, because it scrubs the tyres across the road. You lose rubber, you lose traction, you potentially heat the tyres up, and then once you've lit them up, they can be hard to cool down again. And that can obviously lead to more accidents and mistakes. So Parker, if he has been sliding the car around, will want to stop that post haste.
Yeah, interesting to see talking about tyre saving. A lot of people are actually doing slower laps than they have at the start of the race, apart from Robin Panzar in 6th, who's just done a personal best. He's now lapping faster than any of the top 5 have all race long.
Well, he's put his foot down then, hasn't he? I mean, Panzar, we were worried about having lost that position at the start of the race, obviously, but now he seems to be putting his foot down a bit. He seems to be trying to get some good laps in, try and get past the likes of Deval, Bok perhaps, to get up into P4, and that would be crucial for him.
Yeah, what he seemed to do is actually drop back off the Val a little bit. That probably helped just keep his tyres in a bit of check for a few laps. Now he's going to close back up. He's still, about half a second down on the Val, so yeah, he will have a bit of dirty air affecting his tyres and his tyre wear, but yeah, if he keeps dropping back every now and then and just showing that he's got the pace, that might show that he might be able to do something when it comes to the pit stops.
Quite possibly, when the pit stops do occur, we will be seeing some very interesting happenings, and well, it'll take until the pit stops have to say that. Obviously, in regards strategies, what do you think we're looking at here, Ewan? Obviously, if the drivers are on the softer tyres now, how long do we see these lasting? Because remember, a lot of corners, and it is quite hot out there today.
Yeah, if I'm one stopping, I'm going to want to at least get to sort of lap 25 as an absolute minimum, I would imagine. Actually, yeah, maybe 20 to 25 if you're on the softs. Probably want to do somewhere between 40 and 35 laps on the mediums. Interested to see what Riot does on the hard, see how long he goes, but he'll definitely be on the softs coming into the race.
Yeah, really will be pushing for those softs at the end of the race. Obviously, drivers on the softs now, I reckon we can expect about, 16, 17, 18 laps on those tyres personally, and they will have to do, if what we've been talking about saving is true, and they'll have to save, obviously, if they're trying to push those tyres to about 18 laps and saving while doing it, they might go soft, medium, try and make sure that they can definitely get the tyres to the end of the race, but we'll have to see. We might see some alternate strategies here. We might see soft hard if drivers are one stopping, hard if they've got a slightly longer first stint, have started on the different tyres. It's all to play for, possibly a 2-stop round here, says Michael Francesconi. He thinks it's going to be, so obviously he's quite a knowledgeable driver himself, so we may go starting stint a soft and then a soft medium or a soft hard, so who knows.
It'll be interesting to see how much time you can make up by doing that. I feel like, especially if I'm someone like Simracing or Jordan, I know that I can look after my tyres. I know I don't want to be back in the traffic. I might just try and eke it out into the sort of the low 20s in terms of lap number, and then go onto a hard tyre to get to the end of the race. Save yourself 20 odd seconds in the pit lane, and then just nurse the tyres and make sure that I've got track position around here.
Of course, the big question here is it worth it to pit versus saving your tyres? Because the pit lane here is not that long. It's quite a short run in and a short run out of the pit lane. And you got to think, if costing tyres would cost you more than pit stop, do you make the stop or do you try and save your tyres? Therein lies the question. But, then you've got to weigh it up against the fact that, going into you've got to slow down, you've got to travel at the restricted speeds, you got to come out again, and it all costs you a lot of time. So there is a lot of potential, strategies here because the pit lane is not massively long.
No, I mean, looking at if they wanted to pit now, for example, they'd come out behind Heras by about 5 seconds, so they'd have a bit of clean air. But that's going to obviously evolve as we get closer to the pit stop window. So I feel like, there's a crash in the top 10. I think I was on the
there is. That looks like one of the. It's in a bruising and it's tagged his teammates. That's Fabrizio Gobi, who's been balked by his spinning teammate Giuseppe Ragusa, who has lost his rear wing somehow. I've got no idea how that's happened. We'll have to go to a replay to find out. It looked like he hit Keersmakers and was hit himself. And that caused Keersmakers to lose his rear wing.
Yeah, and that caused Rual as well. I think Rual had a bit of an issue. He got stuck in that as well. So both HRTs, both Abruzzi's involved. I think both green stripes as well.
Oh, dearie me. Well, that is not what Giuseppe Ragusa wanted to happen. And he's been caught up in that. And his teammate Fabrizio Gobi got balked as well. And he's got no front wing. He's hit his teammate and got no front wing. Oh, Fabrizio. No, that's not what we wanted.
Yeah, it's not what we wanted to see at all. It looks like as well Keersmakers is trying to get back to the pit lane, just got his braking zone wrong into turn 14 and caught Vincent Goot as well and got away with a Goot and has been able to continue down in 18th.
Well, I'm fairly sure that both those Abruzzi drivers will be holding to a meeting by Mike Pittman. It'll be a Tino Biscuits affair, I got to feel. But, yeah, that is not a good run for that. And that is Abruzzi's hopes down the pan for this race. And, well, even Laurent Keersmak is involved there as well. He's now going to get both wings replaced. That's going to hurt his chances too. And, well, the end result of all of that, ladies and gentlemen, David Feidig has moved up to 13th place. Tom Parker is fighting for the top 10 now. He's behind Matthias Moose, who is in the top 10. Giuseppe Saracino in P9. Eros Pashuli P8. Jack Mayer is now in the top 7. Go on, Jack. And then you've got your top 6 still unchanged. But Jack Mayer...
Yeah, it's 4 of the top 10 now, basically taken out of the race. I know they're still running, but they're way out of it at the moment unless something amazing happens. So yeah, big shake up in the top 10. Jack Mayer now the leading medium tyre runner. Let's see what he will do with Masciuli, Saracino and Moose behind.
Yeah, Jack is one of the real rising stars at GPVWC. Obviously started his career and he'll probably admit himself it wasn't the perfect start, made a couple of wrong impressions, and but he's really matured since then. I think we brought this up in previous races as well, and he is now really one of the big threats for some serious results. Maybe he'll get one here today at Singapore, who knows? But Eros Masciuli's got something to say about that in the go speed. He's P8 and starting to close. So he's obviously...
So, yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting to see the gaps are still pretty much the same up front as well. Jordan's actually gained a few tenths on Simracing in the last few laps and getting closer to the rear wing. So, I don't know whether he's going to try and mount an attack before we get to the pit stop phase, or whether he's happy sitting in for the moment.
Possibly, yes. That could be a potential consideration. Looking up and down the field, I've noticed Parker's actually dropped position to Chris Butcher, who's now in P11, and he's being hounded by two-time world champion David Feidig, who's in P13. So Feidig could have a go for it here, and obviously Butcher ahead. Tom Parker is the filling in a red arrow sandwich at the moment, and Feidig is looking to get out of that sandwich by making an overtake.
Yeah, and like we said earlier as well, Feidig and Butcher starting 26th and 27th out of 27 in this race, so fantastic start for those.
Really, really good results for those red arrows. They started at the back, remember, and they've come up this far to 11th and 13th. This is a great run up the order for them so far, and it could be that they get a really good result this race. I know they've been aspirated on for a while, Feidig and Butcher obviously, and well, Feidig's team that is as well. Red Arrow moved to it this year to try and take the pressure off himself, to try and get back into enjoying Super League, and who can really blame him? It can be a tough sport when you've got this much extra talent in. Oh, I'm just looking actually at Yerny Simoncic here. He took some liberties with that third to last corner there. He's really pushing the boundaries of what could be considered considerably accepted track limits. I'm watching him, and he was almost all 4 wheels off the white line. Now, the rule in GPVWC is you must keep 2 wheels within the white lines or on the track surface at all times. Now, I think the curbs aren't track surface for this year, but it's possible that they will be for 2021. I'm not sure. But Simracing has got to watch that. Otherwise, he's going to get flagged up by several teams for track limit violations.
Yeah, I think curbs are. I'm sure curbs are, because I'm sure we saw that in Spa and in Monza as well. But
Well,
yeah,
he's pushing it very close, whatever the rule is.
Yeah, he's got to be careful because he doesn't want to give himself any hassle after the race. But yeah, he was really attacking the curbs through qualifying. Look how close they are now. Jordan is all over the back of him. Obviously, DRS has helped that and probably dropped back through the tightness was the final sector. But yeah, we've got a bit of a race in our hands now. I think they're now starting to close up and make sure that they're in striking distance when we get to the first round of pit stops.
Yeah, the curbs are part of the racing service. I just looked that up. So Simracing entirely entitled to use the curbs, but if he goes beyond that, then he's really going to be caught up by other drivers. He does not want to give himself any opportunity to lose positions here. So he's got to watch his track limits. I'm going to watch him again as he comes on third to last, because that's where we're being flagged up here. I'm going to watch him again coming around this third to last corner, and he comes in, as you see. Oh, he did go over that time. He hit the undercut that time. I saw that. He's really got to watch himself. Yeah, and he's Simracing, because Dennis Jordan will be taking notes.
Yeah, the anti-cut can damage a car as well at some circuits. I don't know what it's like in that particular corner, but yeah, he's got to be really careful. We don't want to do as well as unsettle your car over the bumps and end up spinning out. Especially when you're in the lead, you've got track position and no one's really able to get past you. So he needs to really make sure he can look after his car when he's got this advantage.
Rodrigo Cavallo in the comments saying, I want rain. Where are the clouds? I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Rodrigo, but unfortunately, according to our weather sources, it's only likely to get less likely from here on in. So you must put your brolly away, mate. It's going to probably be a dry race. Although that being said, everything I've said has been the opposite of it happening. So now it's guaranteed to rain. There you go. Fix that for you, Rodrigo. But yeah, an interesting point from Edge Esports in, of course, Yerning is cutting it close. That's how you win. It's operating in an optimal way within the limits of the rules, which you can argue he's doing. But if he does cut it too much, Jordan will be taking notes and may get his team boss to send a little protest to the disciplinary committee.
Yeah, of course, that's completely up to them, and I don't know the rules enough to even get anywhere near involved. So that's for people to sort out between themselves. But yeah, from my point of view, it is all about making sure he keeps his car intact as Ruol gets really close to the back of Yucapella Lalu into turn 40.
Yeah, Lalu, an interesting quantity in this race. We have not seen him in Super League in a while, and he's holding his own nicely in the points positions here. And Ruol's really trying to hammer the back of him to try and get through into P14. Lalu would be demoted to the final points position then. But that green stripes is going nowhere fast, so Ruol's going to have to do something. But we don't know what that something is at the moment.
No, and I think I remember Lalu. I think he stood up possibly for Cosmo, I think, at Turkey this season, and really made the alternate strategy work beautifully before an incident late on in the race. So he's on that medium tyre at the moment. It'd be lovely to see what he can do in that green stripes, because we know he's really got the talent when he's looking after the tyres to get deep in the race and do something a bit aggressive towards the end.
Indeed, we know Lalu definitely all the good things in those cars, so we're going to be interested to see how he goes. I think he formerly drove from flag to flag as well, so he's driven for several teams. Definitely quite an experienced talent. Here comes Tom Parker now on Chris Butcher. He's got the DRS, going to fling it to the outside of the DRS zone, and is he going to go? He doesn't. Yes, he does outbrake himself. I thought he was going to get it stopped, but he runs over the curb, and Parker has to see the position back. But that is just going to put Butcher on edge a little bit there. We'll be wise to him doing that now. And that's the problem. As soon as you go for it, you can't really try it again, catching your opponent off guard, because they're wise to your strategies. So Parker's going to have to find somewhere else.
Yeah, and there really isn't a lot more places that you can do that around this track. I thought it was really good driving from Butcher there to spot your braking zone when you're offline as Parker hits the wall out of the hairpin. Don't know if he's got any damage, but yeah, you don't want to have too many taps like that as he's chasing. He's lost a little bit of time as well to Butcher. Butcher's teammate Fidek all over the back of him.
Yeah, Parker does not want to be hitting the wall, not even getting anywhere near the walls, really. Well, as close to the walls as he can without hitting it is preferable. But Parker does not want to be hitting the walls, otherwise he's potential suspension damage to deal with. And of course, rear suspension damage, worse than front suspension damage, because it only makes the oversteer worse.
Yeah, and he is sliding a lot as well. We saw him sliding earlier on in the race. He's still sliding now, a few slides through the final sector, and that's really going to aggravate his tyres even more as he goes wide through the final corner. Butcher did as well, and he's close back up to the rear of the Red Arrow racing car.
Oh, he gets pretty close in turn one, but he locks up, unfortunately. He's locked up hard style there, and Fidek's going to be all over him in the DRS zone if he can keep this gap where it is right now, because he's dropped a crucial couple of tenths to the two-time champion.
Yeah, and it's really showing, especially through turn one, how much a data affects you when you've got a car in front of you, because he just could not get it slowed down in time, ended up going wide and losing time. It's probably cost him a chance into turn 5 on this lap.
Yeah, we do love David Fidek here in GPVWC, obviously two-time champion, all-around good guy, and well, obviously team manager now as well, so hasn't really been there 2020, but maybe 2021 will be. Here's hoping for Red Arrow, because they're a solid team through and through and a bunch of good lads. So let's see if they can get that 2021 in a slightly better shape than they have this year.
Front four have started to turn on the pace then, all fastest first sectors between them, and then Simracing and Jordan have done personal best in sector 2 as well. So now we're starting to see the wick turn up. We're on lap 15. You said late teens for pit stops, I said early 20s. I think we're starting to get to that point where people are deciding they need to push now to make sure they've got a decent gap for when they pit.
Yeah, it seems that because no clear winner is emerging here, the drivers are deciding to turn up the wick somewhat, and they're starting to post faster lap times. I think Robin Panzar might react to this as well, as might Jack Mayer. They're all sort of within contention, so expect faster sector times, faster lap times to come from this leading group now. As we come into lap 16 of 61, we're a quarter of the way through the race. If any stops are going to happen, I expect they're going to happen in the next 5 laps.
Yeah, all of the top 4 now into the 142s
Kilk
for
in,
the
actually.
first time.
Right, Kilk is the first to jump. He is in the pits. He's coming off the medium tyres after 15 laps on them. That is not the length he would have wanted to get out of those tyres, and he's gone onto the soft, so they will have to stop again.
Well, if they know that they're going to have 2 stops, he may as well come out the traffic. You can see the people fighting in front of him. Come out the traffic, give yourself a chance. He's got a nice bit of space behind Fabrizio Gobi that he can now pump some laps in, and let's see how far up he can get before people pit.
Yeah, going to be really interesting to see how this goes. But now Kilk has jumped. Will anyone decide that now is the time? Obviously, he may have just done that to get out of the traffic, get in some clean air, and get some nice uninterrupted laps in. But he's got to worry about other things as well, such as being lapped by the leaders if that point ever comes in the race. He's not in any threat of that now at the moment. I think he was 39 seconds behind at the last split, so nowhere near lapping distance, considering we've seen 143, so at least 60 seconds away from that. But Yerny Simracing is the one we're going to want to watch, as are the likes of Jordan Sixter-Bock, because they are going to be the leaders of this race by that point. I think Sixter-Bock, Devar, Panzo will be the ones to come in first. Simracing and Jordan will extend as they can.
Yeah, and of course what Simracing hasn't had is another car in front of him disturbing the airflow around his car, making or creating understeer through some of the corners, especially these 90 degrees that we can see on screen now with Fidek and Parker through the final sector. It means that he can relax a bit more on his tyres, Simracing, and eke a few more laps out as the first of the red arrows comes in.
Butcher's in, so that is a pit stop for Butcher. Fidek maybe in the next lap. He may decide to come in on the next lap if that's the case, and they're running similar strategies. But Tom Parker now, with Butcher out the way, now fighting with Fidek for P11, and he has got to defend hard if he wants to hold this. Meanwhile, at the front, look at the gap between Jordan and Simracing. It was briefly so far down. They were nose to tail with each other. Jordan pushing hard now. He's using that preserved tyre life. And Sixter and Bock might be planning an undercut, but Simracing is in real danger.
Yeah, undercut looks powerful. Kilk got past Butcher, so he's made up, 4 places there net. Fastest middle sector on his fresh soft tyres, and then a personal best final sector. That is an indicator to the rest of the field that the undercut will work if you can find some space on track.
Indeed, got to try and find the space on track to get these real
some just wide. Jordan will go through.
Oh, Jordan. Yeah, he is. Dennis Jordan. He's going to go on the inside. He's done it. Dennis Jordan, the ultimate opportunist, gets by on a mistake from Simracing, who runs wide and loses the lead. And now Fabio Sixta is going to be gobbling this up because he'll see weakness and attack. He will do that. Will Simracing come in having lost the position? I suspect not. I think he thinks those tyres can go further, and he does stay out on track. Sixta stays out, Box stays out, Panzer stays out. So the entire top 10 are staying out.
Yeah, the lapse in concentration from Simracing is very uncharacteristic for Yone. And yeah, he just got a little bit deep into the corner. It wasn't a massive mistake, to be fair, but it was enough to give Jordan the inside line for the chicane. And yeah, job done for Jordan. And now he can dictate the pace of the race.
Wow. If a tyre whisperer can dictate race pace, then if it's Jordan doing it, it'll be his advantage. Simracing was forced to, well, wasn't forced to. He did dictate the pace before, and Jordan was forced to follow. Now to the rear end, Sixta disconnects! Sixta disconnects! Oh, Fabio, is that into the issues again? Oh, and just when he was doing so well, I had him on for the race win. He was in third. I hate myself for that now. I've cursed everyone in this race, and it's the delayed effect for Fabio Sixta, evidently, because he drops out of contention.
Yeah, terrible luck for Fabio. He was doing so well, and yeah, it's not the first time this season that's happened. So, real shame for Sixta and of course Mad Cape.
Well, if any positives have come out of this race for Sixta, he has made a storming case for 2021 for any team to, because he's just shown that regardless of the car, regardless of the team, he can put on a show and it's championship contention material. If he was hired for any team, he'd be able to probably get a top 5. But obviously, I think he needs to go to his internet provider and have some strong words before that happens.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, like we said. Kilk's still flying on those soft tyres down in 18th now. See what people do. Surely people are going to have to now do their own thing. They've missed the time to react to stop him from making the undercut. He was doing a 27.3 in the first sector. The leaders are only doing 27.5s, 27.4s. So plenty of speed in the Red Archer. Let's see what the leaders do as they're now into the 1:40s and 1:41s themselves.
Well, that is desperately unfortunate for Fabio Sixta, though, as we rightly say. Obviously, another disconnection from another race, and he was doing so well, but Robin Panzer won't be feeling too much sympathy for him. He's just been promoted back into P5, and Liam Duval is in the top 4 as a result of that. Yannick Bott is in the top 3. He's on the podium because of that disconnection, so hardly any sympathy from the Evolution camp. It's given them a 1-3.
Yeah, but look at the gaps now between the top 4. They're starting to fan out a little bit. It was 7/10 to between Jordan and Simracing at the end of the DRS straight, which is pretty much where the timing beam is for the end of sector 1. Tom Parker's going defensive against David Fidek, who's going to try and go around the outside of turn 5, can't make that stick. But yeah, the gaps are starting to fan out the top, and Box now outside the DRS range to Yone Simracing.
Yeah, Yannick Bott obviously charging hard now on Yone Simracing, who's got an Evolution in front, he's got an Evolution behind, and the one behind is providing some very serious challenges right now. And you can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to be fighting with Simracing before the end of this race is done, I think. But yeah, Dennis Jordan at the moment leading this race and dictating the pace at which the drivers can go. He can get to lap 20 on those softs, then it may be soft, medium is his strategy, and I think he's going to try and do it because he's going to be coming onto the lap 20 now. He's completed 19, so I reckon it's going to be 2 stops for the leaders.
Yeah, unless they go onto a hard tyre, and then they might be able to make that last, especially the front 2. We know what they're like on tyres. Interesting to see now they've almost got the gap to get out in front of Tom Parker, who's in 10th at the moment.
Yeah, Tom Parker's been promoted to 10th by all this as well. He's coming into the
pitted.
pit actually now, so not much longer he's going to be promoted to 10th for, but he was briefly promoted to 10th by that. Now, Fidek who's in the top 10. Go on, David. Good to see Fidek in the top 10, though. It really is always a good contender for, one of the most consistent. We always used to call him Mr. Consistency, and he certainly is a consistent driver. And, let's see if he can go any further up from here.
But look at the gaps. Look, that group are doing 1:45s compared to the leaders 1:41s on that lap. And that means there's now, 27 seconds between Jordan and Fidek. That's just about enough time, I think, to make a pit stop and come out in some fresh air. So that is really good news for anyone wanting to try and undercut out in the top 5.
Indeed, obviously coming out in the top 5. or going into the top 5 would be obviously important part of that. But as we say, the gap in the pits is about 20 odd seconds at the moment. If Jordan pitted, he might come out in P9, P10 sort of way. So, as that's what we mentioned with the short pit lane, it evolves as the race goes on. It might be more beneficial now to extend the stints, because then you'll lose less time and less position when you actually come out now. Will Jordan be coming in? He won't. Will Simracing be coming in? He won't. Bok? No. De Vries? No. Panzer? No. So they're on the top. They're on the top 6 are in. As Mayer stays out, Mashuli stays out, Moose stays out. So obviously the time is not now.
No, I'm very impressed, by the way, with Mayer, Masudi, Moose and Saraceno. They've really stuck to the top group on their alternate strategy, and that really gives them a really good shout on whatever they do for the second stint. Maybe it's their only stint. Yeah, really impressed with the speed that they've had. They're less than 10 seconds behind the leader.
Indeed, and less than 10 seconds behind the leader, all things considered, is not a bad place to be. And I have to say, all things considered, if you are less than 10 seconds behind the leader, you'll come out about 30 seconds behind, possibly in the likes of 15. So it really isn't a bad place to be. And at the moment, the likes of Fadik, Saraceno, Moose, Mashudi, all in a very good place.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you got to remember with them is, as well, is they're on the same strategy as all of those people in the lower reaches of the point. So they're going to pit at the same time. They're not going to be held up in traffic as much as maybe the top guys would have if they pitted 5 laps earlier. So they're in a really good place. And yeah, if they're going onto a faster tyre maybe at the end with their alternate strategy, then they could be troubling the top 5.
Indeed, possible trouble for the top 5. Going to be interesting to see if it is, because, well, at the moment, the gap between 5th and 6th is 3 seconds or so. Jack Mayer and Robin Panzer, those 2 at each side of that. So it is starting to spread out a little bit, but still some very close action going on here. And still none of the top 3 in, but Liam de Vries is. He's in P coming in now. So de Vries, calling time on the stint, going to undercut the rest of the top 5.
Let's see what de Vries can do on his outlap then. Firstly, let's see what tyre compound he goes on to. Kilk is still doing fastest laps of the race, and he's 4 or 5 laps into his stint now, so that's really promising for anyone trying to undercut like de Vries onto the medium tyres. What can he do on his outlap? Has he got enough clean air to try and do an undercut on the top guys?
Yeah, gonna have to see how that goes. Is there enough of an undercut now? de Vries exits in P9 as we predicted. He comes out ahead of David Feidick, so he'll be happy with that. And de Vries now with work to do to get back up to the front of the field.
Yeah, and he's got plenty of space in front with Saraceno way down the road from him. So good chance for de Vries. Probably be able to pump a lap in here. Don't know how long everyone else is going to go. If I was boxing Chicho Jordan, definitely Bok maybe. I'd pit this lap and cover that off.
Indeed, and, well, got to be said, Jordan at the front doing a very good job of holding off Simracing right now. And we know, obviously, from de Vries' pit stop there, that he will lose about 20 seconds in the pit lane. So right now, Bok would come out about 4 seconds ahead of de Vries, obviously behind Saraceno. So if any time's a good time to pit, now I would think is that time. It's not a terrible time to call time on your stint. David Feidick would only gain positions if anyone from Moose down pitted. So the likes of Mashuli upwards could pit and not lose position to Feidick. And remember, David Feidick is on that medium tyre, so he's trying the alternate strategy.
Yeah, Bok pits then, as I thought. He'll try and cover de Vries off probably here. And what's de Vries done sector time wise on his outlap here? His fastest second sector, about 4 tenths faster only than Bok on that lap through the middle sector.
He's coming around the last corner now. Yannick Bok is exiting the pit lane. He's hit off the limiter. de Vries is going to be close on the exit, but it's not going to be an overtake, crucially. But the gap has come down. It was a few seconds in it before. It's less than a second in it. Now he's on the back of him. Look at that. The undercut is the way to go.
Yeah, and of course DRS he's going to have now as well, so Bok's going to have to do everything he can to defend. De Vries had a few laps, so they'll be right up to temperature.
Gets close to the wall there. We'll have to see if he can do it though. As he comes around, he'll have the DRS. He's going to swing it to the inside. Hits the brake again. Oh, was the contact between the two of them? Well, Jordan Bok runs wide. Now he goes to the inside. There is contact this time. This is a rough battle between these two. Bok just leaving enough space De Vries forcing himself around the outside. He's going to get it. Oh, that touching wheel. Someone's going to yield. It's not going to be Bach, though. Oh, contact again. De Vries and Bach. Oh, this is amazing. And Bach cuts. Oh, Liam. Oh, that's naughty from De Vries. He cuts the corner. He is going to have to give that back.
Yeah, interesting to see that. I thought he might have just done it because he knew that it was too narrow a corner, but whether he's a bit annoyed with something that Yannick's done there in defending, I don't know.
That was naughty there. I think he had enough space to leave him on the track, but he's going to have to give him back. But there was a lot of argy-bargy between him and Bach. A lot of hard defending. Simracing in, by the way. Yannick Simracing in the pits. So he comes in, but there was wheel touch. There's not a nice affair between the two of them. And I think, is Dennis Jordan coming? Yeah, Jordan's coming too. Simracing and Jordan pit on the same lap. Jack Mayer leads the race.
Yeah, Panzer's in as well, so it looks like they double stacked the burst.
Oh, De Vries has let him go. De Vries has let Bach go there, so he obviously has the fact that he gained the position illegally and is giving it back up. So that's fair enough.
They were costing each other time as well. They really could have worked together there, and sort of one of them let themselves pass. I know it's hard to let someone pass who's a rival, but they've cost themselves a chance of undercutting the top two by doing that. Yeah,
quite possibly. That is going to obviously cost them a lot of time, but that was a fairly salacious cut from Liam de Vries. But that is going to be an interesting one for the after race as well. Is anything going to happen because of that? Well, I mean, given the nature of it, I'm not sure. I think it kind of resolved itself in the end, but yeah, at the moment though, we have a very interesting top three. Jack Mayer and Matthias Moos from Giuseppe Saracino.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have thought that before the start of this race.
Well, no, but interestingly, they've been doing really decent lap times all the way through the start of this race. We're on lap 24 now. They're still doing 142, mid 142s on these medium tyres. So really good effort from them. Obviously, they're going to be on a completely different strategy to the top five. Let's see what they can do to maybe sort of disrupt the status quo that we've seen. Yannick Bach on the mediums, of course, and Jordan and Simracing on the hards.
Well, Jack Mayer is coming to the pits now, so he's obviously decided that his time at the front of this race should end, and he's going to be a case of, I'm going to go for it now, getting the new tyres on. And by my logic, he should not come out too far behind the likes of, Mashuli. He might come out near you to pick Alalu, actually. He's in P13, so it's going to be a decent stop here, we think. Yeah, it's P4 now from Jordan, from Saracino, from Moose. And if Moose would have pit this lap, he might come up just behind Mashuli. It's going to be touch and go. Where does ultimately Mayer come out? It comes out 8th. Wow. So he's lost only 19 seconds by doing that.
Yeah, and interestingly, he's right behind Panzer because Panzer had to wait while Simracing was being serviced in pit lane as well. So they looked like they double stacked. It's probably cost Panzer a little bit of time there. But Jack Mayer coming up just behind. Interesting to see. He's only done 25 laps on the mediums.
Oh,
Bach and De Vries on the mediums.
Ruot with a great overtake on Fidek there. And now look at Mashuli trying to make advantage of going on the outside. Fidek will leave him enough space. But Mashuli's got the better drive in David Fidek. Well, those tyres are going to be coming to the end of the life now. He must be considering a pit stop himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really shows how much of a job surely Bach and De Vries are going to be stopping them after going on to their mediums. Because, I mean, 40 laps on a set of mediums? That's going to be a long, long time to hold on. Especially when you see the guys in midfield struggling to hold on after 25.
Yeah, it's going to be a long run there. Matthias Moos is doing a decent job of keeping his tyres in check at the moment. Would he be expecting him to come out at the likes of Panzer and Mayer as well, possibly further ahead of Mayer? And if he could slot back ahead in front of Panzer, that would be amazing. He's coming in this lap, obviously. We'll see where he does come out, Matthias Moos. Giuseppe Saracino said to inherit the lead if he doesn't pit, otherwise it'll be Dennis Jordan. Saracino is coming in though, so Dennis Jordan will regain the lead of the race. That much is a given. So Jordan back in the lead, but where will Moos and Saracino come out?
I mean, you'd imagine they're somewhere near Mayer, Ruot, Mathieu.
Oh.
They probably lost a little bit of time. What's Moose done?
Moose has gone on the hards. Well, he must be thinking he can one-stop this then. As a result, Matthias Moose comes out P9 under threat from, well, not under threat from his teammate, actually. His teammate's behind him. But yeah, Moose is out on the hards. Jack Mayer, for reference, is also on the hards. They'll be one-stopping to the end of the race. Mayer is P6 at the moment.
Yeah, and like we said, Buck and Duval probably two-stop, and that means that he'll go up 2 positions, and then the other 2 guys, albeit on faster tyres at the end, probably will have to then get past on circuit, and we've seen how difficult that's been already.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting end of the race, we think. Maya doing a fantastic job in P6 at the moment. Can't remember what his best result in Super League is. I'm going to go look that up, but he's on for a top 7 here, and that would be very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for Edge with my neck having troubles at the start of the race. He's down in P19 at the moment after getting his car fixed. So big points for Jack Mayer and Edge.
Yeah, of course. Mayer obviously going to be pushing for result, as well Feidig, who's currently struggling with his tyres at the moment, obviously down in P15. Well, he's changed actually. He's been in the pits. He's come out on the stop, so will stop again, obviously, Feidig. And obviously has struggled a bit in recent years and has not even had a podium in GPVWC since 2017, and that's when he finished 3rd in the championship. Since then, he's had some top 4s and top 5s, but has not top 5 since last year when he got one at Azerbaijan. And this year has struggled to crack the top 10. So obviously the move to Red Arrow, obviously you have to drive him for a Bruising Hawkeye 2019, trying to get his confidence back up, but he's doing all right at the moment.
Yeah, he is, and it was a difficult season for him last season, but he's done all right this season as a whole, really. He's been in a few incidents that weren't really his fault, but when he's been wheel to wheel, he's shown that he's still got it, so that's great news for David, and good to see him having a few good battles today as well, especially for the points having started at the back of the field.
Yeah, Jack Mayer as well, obviously, who we talked about in P6, a very interesting character as well. Obviously started his career with not exactly what you call the best of impressions. Obviously had several decent results, and then took a long time out before he came back in 2017 in Supercup, and a couple of results there, and some very decent results in 2018 as well. Then competed in Super League Lights in 2019 and 2020 of this year, and has really started to turn the pressure up. He's got some podium results, has never actually won in Super League Lights, never actually taken a win in GPVWC, but has had 2 Super League outings. One was at DNF in 2015, and his most recent outing, of course, last round at Edge with Edge in Italy, was a 12th place. So he'll be hoping for some good results here today too.
Yeah, he's absolutely got a little bit of speed in him, and it's good to see that he's got the chance to show that today, especially with the strategy that he's taken. Someone else who's got speed, Eros Masiuli, on the soft tyres at the moment, all over the back of Stefan Ruol's HRT. He had a look actually into turn 10 on this lap, but could make it stick, which, I mean, we've already seen that we've had side by side through turn 10, and it was nigh on impossible to get 2 cars through there. So, but yeah, plenty of speed in that go speed. Let's see what he can do to get past the HRT on this lap.
Eros Masiuli going to be pushing hard then to get through as we approach the 45% race distance, and Ruolt and Masiuli will be going at it, you imagine, for quite a while. Both cars are Masiuli on the super soft, so we'll have to stop again, but Ruolt will probably go into the end, as will Mayer on those hards, and obviously, as we mentioned, Duval and Bach both on the mediums, so possibly going to be going for one more stop, who knows, but Bach and Duval, obviously the interesting quantities here, and Bach has obviously stopped. I don't know whether Duval has. I don't know Liam Duval has stopped too.
Yeah, Duval stopped. Ruot hasn't stopped. He started on the hards in 24th, so this is out of sync for Stefan Ruolt. He's just trying to get himself into some sort of a race at the end of this race, having started so far down. He's doing a decent job on these hards, and he's not actually letting Jack Mayer get away from him. He's just stopped. So probably helping his race, hurting Masiuli, because Masiuli has gone on to the set of softs for stint 2, and he really needs to be making some headway to try and get far enough ahead of this group in order to get a decent gap, make his second and final pit stop probably, and then be able to attack at the end of the race.
You have to imagine that he'll need to be doing that, obviously, to try and get himself in a decent position. And well, Mayer as well in P6 will be doing a decent job of trying to hold them up to stop them from doing that and defend his own place, because for him this is all for position now. Any positions he takes, he'll hold to retain. He'd hold to retain them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm looking at what Mayer's doing. He's actually doing personal bests at the moment, so he's not slow. It's just Ruol's got great pace to hang on to the back of him. But good news for Jack Mayer, he's only slightly slower than Robin Panzar, sort of half a second, which isn't bad when you think of how little experience Jack Mayer's got in Super League. Interestingly, the guys at the front of the field on hards, Jordan and Simracing, are going faster than Bok and de Vries, so maybe some tyre saving for Bok and de Vries.
You got to remember though, Bok will have DRS now. He just had it on the previous straight. He's in DRS range, and considering that Simracing doesn't have the DRS, Yannick Bok on the softer tyres will be pulling out every trick in the book to try and get through, you think?
Yeah, you would think so, because it seems bonkers that he would even try to get to the end of the race on this set of tyres. So really, he needs to get out in front and make a gap, like we were saying with Mashu. He has to ahead of Meyer. So, but otherwise, if he is going to get to the end of the race, he's going to be screaming for a new set of tyres at the end of the race. Yeah, can't see that one working. So yeah, has to get through now and make a gap.
Yep, indeed. Got to try and make the gap happen, and that's what's going to really potentially get him the room to make a stop later on in the race. Obviously, at the moment, these top three fighting among themselves. De Vries further back, Panzer further back, Meyer further back. Real battle for the top 6 train definitely going on, and then it's some scraps for lower points positions. But really, it's Simracing and Bok who are fighting for second and third, who we're going to want to keep watching, because this is an evolving battle. Obviously, Bok is going to get the DRS on the front straight and on the other DRS zones as well, but Simracing does seem to have extended the gap somewhat.
Yeah, Simracing did a good lap that time. Both of them were 3/10 faster than Dennis Jordan out in front, so Simracing back into DRS range, and now we're going to get back to the train that we had in stint 1.
Indeed, Simracing obviously, remember, on the hard tyres, as is Stefan Ruot, but Ruot very much out of sync with the rest of the field at the moment, so he will need to stop at some point to get new tyres, and obviously he'll want to try and make up as much ground as he had, get a gap and go for the pit stop, because right now he's come out behind David Feidick, so out of the points.
Yeah, but the thing with Ruot is at the moment is being ahead of Masuli, who we know needs to stop. Ruot's basically gone from back of the grid to being ahead of someone who has been running the top 10 the whole race. So good strategy there from HRT and Ruot to make the best of what they were given. And if he can stay ahead like he has been, we can probably see a decent set of points for him coming in there. But yeah, the gap's closed back up at the front, so Simracing back in DRS and only half a second behind. So yeah, so Jordan and then Simracing, Bok, de Vries, Panzer, as it has been all race pretty much. Simracing making a mistake earlier on. But yeah, closed back up. So now we've got the DRS train that we're so used to around Singapore. Tyre wear for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place guys are going to be absolutely critical, especially Simracing, who's obviously going to want to attack Jordan at some point at the end of the race. But he's looking in his mirrors. He's got 2 people with softer tyres on, trying to hit him down the DRS straight, and obviously that's crucial for Bok and de Vries as well. Can't see them going to the end of the race. Masuli still behind Ruot down in 8th and working out really well for Ruot. But Panzer sort of in no man's land at the moment in 5th. Looking at it as well, Feidox still trying to make up ground. But Kilku was the first of the pit stoppers. Obviously he's going to have to stop again, but he's up to 10th already. As we try and see if Josh can come back in at some point.
Well, I think I'm here, that's the funny thing, but my internet being the enigma that it is, it only decided to work on the server, so it's connected to the server, so I did drop out of Discord for there. Apologies for that. Gonna have a few words with Richard Branson, I feel.
Well, we timed that well though, because literally as soon as I stopped talking, you came back in, so it's almost like we pre-planned.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. All sparse to say is Jack Mayer is definitely doing a fantastic job of defending from Stefan Ruot though at the moment, because Ruot, Mayer gets a bit of a squiggly on there, but Ruot really needs to, get past Mayer here, because he's not fighting him. He's got to stop again. Mayer doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was saying, I don't know whether you heard it before you had your issues, but Ruot's effectively ahead of Masuli on track as well now, because obviously Masuli's got a pit again. So really good job from Ruot, and it will help him get some points towards the end of the race. He was also saying that Kilk is up into 10th after stopping early on, getting the undercut sorted, and that's actually got him ahead of Saraceno, who was up in the top 10 at one point.
Yeah, Giuseppe Saraceno as well in the top 11, pushing for the top 10, obviously. Right, Kilk in front by a way, but Giuseppe Saracino certainly been one of the more interesting races this race as well, doing a fairly good job in that green stripe. So here's to that, and hopefully continuation of that form. I have to say though, at the front it is starting to quieten down a bit. Simracing and Bach have got a continuous gap to each other. They don't seem to be gaining much on each other anymore, and the gaps seem to be equaling out at the front. So really it's just going to be a case of when are Bach and De Vries going to pit.
Yeah, absolutely. If they pit, but like we said before, it seems bonkers that they're going to contemplate one stop in with this strategy. So they need to get past now to make their strategy work. Otherwise, they're going to be in all sorts of bother coming into the race. They haven't got a gap to Mayer and Ruot and Masciuli and Moose. So they're going to be fighting for the bottom half of the top 10. You'd think with that strategy. Just going back to Saracino, you look at Duval, Mayer, Saracino. So many drivers on this grid. Lalu's another one. People who have come through the career ladder up through Super League Lights this season as well, done fantastically well in that series. Thomas Vack, another one. Then they come into Super League as stand-ins and do a fantastic job. 3 of them, 4 of them in the points. So really, really good advocate for what GPVWC career ladder can do.
Yeah, it really is, a great example of what the ladder can do. Obviously, starting with Formula Challenge in the Academy Series, moving up to Super League, through Super League Lights, the newest category, effectively a sort of toned down Super League, only one engine supplier, and you focus solely on development of the car. And then there's Super League itself, the big league, as close to Formula One as you can get without actually owning your own team.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, the lateral progression's perfect. You can see how well the drivers do when they come up to Super League. It works brilliant. And what's more is that they're prepared. And so when we have some of the close racing like we've seen all season, they're right in the thick of it and they're not scared by it either.
Indeed, nobody's scared by anybody here in this field. Definitely, all knowing they can beat each other on the day. Really, some of the top racers in the R-Factor 2 world here. Dennis Jordan, Yanni Simracing, both fantastic drivers. Simracing, reigning Formula Sim Racing World Champion, and has had a lot of success as well in other series as well. Yannick Barkley and Duval, Robin Panzer. Duval, notably competitor. Oh, I think we got a problem. Oh, Tom Parker! Parker's out! Oh, Tom's retired with an engine failure, it seems. What happened there? I suppose we can go to... Yeah, we had a smack. I don't know if we're going to go to a replay here. There's contact with a red arrow! Oh, Tom! Oh, who was that? Which red arrow was that? He hit someone. I think we're going to need to see that again as we are going back in time here. It was Tom Parker. He was...
It
was Fidek! Oh, no! Yeah, so chasing from behind. Oh, there was just not really much space. And Parker sent for a ride. Oh, well. There'll be words had from Fidek. He's lost his front wing there, and Parker not going to be too happy either.
Yeah, just went wandering a little bit, didn't he, Tom? He went wandering a little bit and they collided. That's not what you want to see, especially before the kink.
Oh, well, the engine, apparently, according to Gerrit de Vries, from what he's saying, the engine died because of the collision. So Fidek may be held slightly over.
No, the engine died, which caused the collision. I think the engine's died. He's trying to pull out the way.
Oh, that's the opposite then. So that's an engine failure for Tom Parker. Now, what percentage was his engine on? Because he mentioned this shouldn't be an issue. But I'm interested to see what percentage his engine was on. Let's go to the development page on the site and find out. Tom Parker, of course, driver of the number 12 Street Fighter Racing Systems car. And that car, its engine was 55%. So perhaps he just had a double downshift or something.
Yeah, possibly. The other thing we've seen, he's been really, really ragged through the traction zones all the way through the race. We mentioned earlier how much he was sliding, so whether he's been over revving all the way through the race, that might have caused some wear. We don't know.
Well, a possible engine overheat for Tom Parker or some sort of mechanical failure. We don't know for sure, but we'll have to get views on that at the end of the race, find out what happened to the engine. Cannot have been wear related. It was 55%. It's not going to really blow up at 55%, you'd imagine. Although the important thing to remember is that engine percentage does not dictate chance of failure. well, it does dictate chance of failure, but it's not a guarantee of failure. The closer it is to zero, the more likely it is to fail. It knocks time off the lifetime of the engine. It may still fail, but it might be less time to doing that on zero than it would on 15.
Yeah, just had confirmation from Tom. Engine failure, no warning.
Yeah, possibly double downshifted then, or maybe had just an unlucky engine, possibly, I don't know, but it was certainly in a good wear range, 55% left on it, so that is very confusing.
Yeah, a real shame as well, because he was firmly in the points and having some good battles, so yeah, real shame for Tom and obviously the whole team at Street Fighter.
Obviously, he was having a good race as well, Parker, but now obviously out of the running, and a shame for them. Gonna be racking their brains on that one for a while, you gotta feel, and well, Matthew Alton rightly saying, if it wasn't an acceptable range, Red Archer and Edge would be in trouble. But,
well, yeah, exactly.
But Gerrit de Vries, whispering in my ear, a bunch of engines died yesterday, and they were in the 40% range. So, maybe the teams have made a miscalculation on the engine life.
Yeah, possibly, but again, I imagine it will come down a little bit to driving style as well, so, you know, whether that's got any factor on what's happening. It looks like Maguire might have got Luke Maguire, that is, past Gobi, I think.
Yeah, Maguire and Gobi then obviously an interesting one as well. Luke Maguire is ahead of Fabrizio Gobi at the moment. Gobi obviously the top runner for Abruzzi now after the unfortunate
Sorry,
incident.
it was Saraceno past Maguire, not Maguire past Gobi. Saraceno past Maguire for P10.
Well, that's the top 10 for Saraceno then. Great job, Giuseppe. Great to see that, and great to see him doing so well as we approach 58% race completion. It is a long race, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long race. You know, like I said, we're only just about halfway through, pretty much, and like I said, mentally tiring. You know, it feels like so long ago since Simracing made that mistake. It's about 20 laps since he made that mistake. So he's managed to put that to one side. But you know, if you're making a mistake that early on in the race, what are you going to do at the end of the race when you're mentally shattered?
Yeah, of course, and that's really the key question. At the end of the race, do you have the mental fortitude to continue moving up the order? Have you got the mental strength to keep your focus rock solid? Therein lies the question. It is a tough one. These drivers, almost endurance drivers in that regard, because they're at it almost for an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, exactly. This is as far away from the sprint race as you usually have as possible. It is really, really difficult. It shows that we're actually, you know, with the tyre wear as well, you've seen how many people are sliding about. You know, physically, mentally, thing as Vincent Gut goes wide and lost the front wing in just under the grandstand, so we'll have to come into the pit for repairs. That's the second Mad Cape, of course, 6 are already out, so bad news for Mad Cape and probably going to be pointless at the end of the race.
Yeah, that is a very big shame for the team, obviously, after Fabio 60 doing so well, then disconnects from the...
Yeah, he disconnected earlier, so that was bad news for Sixter. Back up front, Simicic is now outside the RS range to Dennis Jordan, who's already gone searching off the other side of the track to try and break a toe. Simicic backing to 0.8 of a second behind, but really looking at Bock and Duval behind, who surely have to pit as Luke Maguire makes his stop from P11, see where he comes out. So top 10 at the moment: Jordan, Simicic, Bock, Duval, Panzer, Meyer, Ruol, Masiuli, Moose and Saraceno. We think Bock, Duval, Ruol and Masiuli still have to make another pit stop, so interesting to see what happens when we get there.
Indeed, and well, you know, there's plenty of reasons why the engines could fail. I mean, they could have the radiator too low or anything, but yeah, this is really going to throw the cat among the pigeons now. But yeah, I mean, if we've got 55% engine life for engines failing, either that's bad luck or the teams have underestimated it. And Tom Parker saying he was on a relatively high radiator value.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a high-speed track, this, so you wouldn't need to close the radiator for aero, so it makes no sense that anyone would have a low radiator value, and it sort of makes the overheating even more mystifying.
It does really. I mean, going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Tom Parker in the comments now saying he might have just been pushing it a bit too hard. Unfortunately, his engine. And then obviously, I mean, we don't know why it happened. Tom Parker doesn't know why it happened. but it's got to put a bit of concern on the drivers' faces now if that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, if Tom was one of the higher wear rates or wear percentages, you heard a few out before the race, and there were 30%, 40% in there. So someone like is Ruwalt in? Ruwalt's
yeah,
in
Stefan Ruwalt has finally come in. He's P9 at the in, and he'll be P10 at the out, we believe. Because obviously Sabatino has gone through. In fact, Gobi is going to get him. Kilk might get him. Butcher probably won't. So Ruwalt is going to drop a couple of positions here, but that is not a bad result for Stefan Ruwalt. Pit stop considered.
No, absolutely. And obviously Kilk's made his second stop, so he's down into P11. But Masuli's still to pit. So Ruwalt could get P10 with a few overtakes, and that would really, really be a result after starting P24.
Yeah, P24 up to there is a very good result indeed. And well, we're 60% of the race through now. Your current top 5 is Jordan, Simic, Bok, Panzer. Panzer holding up the rear of that train, about 8 seconds down on the likes of Bok and Simic. So really, the top 3, the closest at the moment, are in fighting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really yo-yo in the gap, because sometimes Simic is out of the RS range and then sometimes he's straight back in. So really interesting to see what's going on there. Is Simic saving a bit of his tyres, keeping out of the dirty air, and going to attack towards the end of the race? We still don't know if they're definitely one-stopping yet. We'd imagine that they would if Jordan Simic on the hard tyres, and Panzer and Mayer as well down in 5th and 6th. But yeah, plenty of time to go in this race. It's a bit like a chess game at the moment, isn't it? You're putting yourself in the correct position in order to win 10 moves down the line.
It's like, it is 4D chess effectively. You've got your 3 dimensions around you, and the 4th dimension, which is your thought process, is trying to work out where to put yourself. And of course, Dennis Jordan putting himself in a good position now, because Simic not able to get through, Bok not able to get through, Duvall not able to get through. And he's obviously the favourite right now for the race win. But you've got to remember, Bok and Duvall both have to pit again, so they will drop off the back. Then it'll be a straight dogfight between Jordan and Simic.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a bad dogfight either to watch. They've had plenty of good racing this season already. Spa comes to mind. So, yeah, Evolution looking strong, especially with Idlonis only having one car in the top 15 at the moment, which would take the points away. And Bok obviously looking strong in the Drivers' Championship, and Maguire not here. 3rd would do just fine.
And David Young rightly saying in the comments, to quote the late Glenn Free, the heat is on for these two at the moment. They are pushing hard. There is not going to be a break in the action for Jordan and Simic. They are going to go for it until the very end. And obviously Duvall and Bok are going to try and get back up the order after their stops. If Duvall and Bok were to stop this lap, we reckon they'd come out P9 and P10. P8 and P9 behind Matthias Moose, who would go up to P6. So maybe worth holding on a little bit for these two.
Yeah, they've got to go as far as they can. They're a decent bit faster than Jack Mayer at the moment. They're about 7/10 faster. They really need to make a gap to Mayer to make sure that they can cement their position here in this race. Obviously, 25 laps is pretty much what the leading medium runners at the start of the race were doing. Well, that's when we saw like Mayer come in, who was, I think, leading the alternate strategy drivers. So yeah, 25 laps. That means that we're probably about 6 or 7 laps away from the pit stops at the moment.
Yeah, still a while out, we imagine, from those stops. Obviously, Jordan and Simic doing the real defending from Bok and Duvall, who are all really in a bit of a train of their own. And Panzer further down the order, obviously, I think, just trying to get to the end in the top 3, really going to be fighting Bok and Duvall a bit more. Mia, possibly on for top 4, who knows?
Yeah, possibly. The way that they're driving at the moment, they would have been sort of 5 or 6 laps from getting the gap to Mayer, but Mayer's just responded and done a 141.5, which is only 3/10 down on the leaders. So that's important for Jack Mayer if he wants to get track position when Bok and Duvall pit, if they do pit.
Yeah, Mayer obviously has got a bit of a fight of his own as well, because he's got Everest Mashuli not far behind him, threatening him, and there's Matthias Moose in and amongst all the action too, who of course would really stand to benefit from the likes of Bok and Duvall pitting just now, which I don't imagine they're going to do. As we said, about 6 or 7 laps for these 3rd and 4th place drivers. We reckon they may throw a surprise at us, of course, and Dennis Jordan and Yanni Simic, though, probably not going to be throwing any surprises at us and going to be staying till the end of the race.
Yeah, Kilk and Ruwalt, who are on fresh medium tyres, both of them in 11th and 12th, they're absolutely flying at the moment. Ruwalt's just on 1 minute 40.1. So yeah, they've got plenty of speed, and it really shows that, you know, if anyone's making a stop onto mediums at the end of the race, they're going to have plenty of pace. So interesting, again, indicating for the guys who might be stopping at the top and bottom of the car.
Now, here's the thing. Marco Fairlich says in the comments, at this point, Simracing might just risk it in pit. Both drivers behind are stopping, so he won't lose any positions as long as he come out ahead of Mia. He's good. I disagree personally. His lap times now on these hard tyres are exactly the same as what he was doing at the end of the first stint, which was on softer rubber. So he's not got any problems with the tyres. There is no reason to pit.
There's no reason to pit unless it gets a bit hair and scare him, and you may as well consolidate your position and take home points. There's no point trying to be a hero and losing everything. So if they get to a stage where they are really hanging on for the tyres and everyone else does pit, you may as well make a pit stop and consolidate your position. But if you're Jordan or Simracing, you'd probably do the opposite to what the other person does. If one of them does pit, you would tend to stay out, I'd imagine.
Unless, and it should be said as well, Bock and Duval are closely matching the times of the cars ahead of him. Unless the second he was off by about a second and a half, a second a lap, it would not really be worth it. And he'd know if he was a second and a half off the lap because everyone and their mother would have overtaken him.
Yeah, absolutely. But having said that, we saw what happened. I know they were on a different tyre compound, but we saw how the tyre drop off for Tom Parker in that group, especially in the sort of 10th to 15th at the end of the first stint, was where the guys on newer rubber were doing 4 seconds a lap fast, 4 seconds per lap faster. So if there is big tyre drop off, and I don't know, they've just gone into the 1 minute 40s themselves now, Jordan and Simracing. They're either pushing because they can push because they got the tyre life, or they're pushing because they know they're going to make another stop.
That's true, but what's also true is the fact that Stefan Ruwalt factors into this equation. Remember, his tyres were very old hards, and by the time he'd stopped, he'd barely been overtaken by anyone. It took 3 cars to overtake him, and he had to pit for that. So if you can make your tyres last, it's worth staying out, it seems, here.
Absolutely, and it completely depends as well with Ruwalt. You know, did he pit because he ran out of tyres, or did he pit because it was just the optimum time to put mediums on? He didn't get to lap 40, did he? And that's sort of what the guys up front need to do on.
Luke Maguire in, by the way, he's on the hards. So Maguire coming in now, and this is going to be an interesting one for the flag-to-flag driver, because Luke Maguire, if we look up and down the standings, he pitted actually very recently on lap 37, and he's come out again now on the hards.
Maybe an issue then, possibly a bit of damage maybe that he needed to sort out.
Possibly, but it's dropped him out of the top 10, top 15, that much is for certain. And now, Giuseppe Ragusa back in the points.
Yeah, good effort after the issue earlier with the incident with his teammate, of course. So if he can keep going as well, because he's all over the back of Thomas Vack, really good recovery.
Thomas Vack has driven a very understated race here. He's in P14, out of 27. He's slap bang in the middle, but he's on for 2 points.
Yeah, I believe.
And remember what we said about that car at the start of the race. Consider that, and this is going to feel like a top 10.
Yeah, not just that, he had the incident as well on that one as well. I think he was without a front wing, so really good recovery from him also to get into the top 15 at the moment. Obviously, he's got to hang on with plenty of fast drivers behind him, but we've seen how difficult it is to overtake today.
Eros Masulian, he's taken soft, so this will be the final stop for him. How much track position is he going to lose? Well, he's going to lose places to Golby and Saracino and possibly Kilk. So obviously Eros is going to lose some time here. He's in P12. He won't lose out to Lalu, but he's going to come out well behind Ruwalt.
Yeah, and you think he was right behind Ruwalt when Ruwalt pitted. He got released, but he couldn't make any headway with Jack Mayer in front of him. And then Ruwalt on the fresh rubber managed to put some great laps in and look at the gap.
Watch Kilk now, though. He's got the DRS and he's close to Saracino. This might be game over for Giuseppe Saracino. Kilk's going to go down the inside. Saracino has a chance to defend. Kilk makes contact and spins him. Then he gets tackled and Ruwalt through.
Yeah, we've seen that every time.
Ruwalt.
We've seen that every time someone's gone down the inside. They can't seem to make ends meet through the apex, and they both go for the same bit of real estate and they end up making contact. Second time we've seen that in this race. And it worked out badly for Saracino, but also Kilk got stabbed to him.
Yeah, they both went in. Kilk kind of made the dive happen. Then he made contact on the exit. That's going to be protestable, I think, for one of those two. but Rualt has jumped 2 places that he otherwise might have had to work very hard to get.
Yeah, and it takes, you know, the strain off the tyres when you're not having to follow people anymore and you're not having to be really aggressive through corners to get onto the back. Jamal is a parlour in the street fight, the first man into the 1:39s.
Yeah, Germano's a parlour into the 139s. He's always had paces, Germano. That's the thing. It's just the races have been a bit unlucky for him, and obviously that is not translated into better luck while moving to Street Fighter. So he's going to get past Jeffrey Forney. Look at the exit from that turn there. He's past Forney before they even get to the next corner. What an exit from Zapala that was. He's now chasing down the likes of Butcher. He could be on for points here if he keeps that pace up.
Yeah, especially on soft as a rubber. See if he can get to the end of the race. I don't know what lap he made his stop. I imagine it would be fairly recently. The big guy of the cars there all behind Thomas Flack. So if he's on the soft as rubber, he'll have a little bit of advantage trying to get through that field.
Bit of an advantage potentially there, obviously, but I mean, Stefan Rualt now has got a real opportunity. He's got clean air in front of him. He's got loads of time to the cars behind. Giuseppe Saracino was falling right off right kill since that incident. He may have sustained damage.
Yeah, possibly. Also, he's on older rubber. Kilk and Rualt on pretty well, sort of 8 to 10 lap old medium tyres, so they'll have a bit more pace anyway, naturally. But that's what I mean about the hard tyre drop off. Saracino 1:44. Obviously, with the accident, probably going to be a 1:42 or 43 on this lap.
Bok in from third, so we will lose positions. Duvall gets onto the podium, but he's got a bit too, remember. Simichich and Jordan don't. But Yannick Bok coming into the pits. Robin Panzer will overtake. Jack Mayer won't overtake, but he's going to be a considerable threat to Bok either which way. Bok is coming out of the pits now on soft tyres, and Jack Mayer is not going to overtake him, but he's going to be very, very close.
He is, and it's good news for Buck that he's not going to be behind Mayer, because if he was behind Mayer, he would have been behind Moose as well. But obviously, they're going to have DRS now as they come down to turn 5. Let's see what Mayer can do. Obviously, Duval managed to attack Buck as he came out of the pit stop.
Oh, Mayer is going to have DRS and all, I think. He's going to get a serious opportunity here to catch up with Buck. This could be problematic for Yannick.
Yeah, I think he's too far behind right now, but obviously he'll latch onto the back unless Buck will have plenty of speed on those soft tyres. I think he's safe.
Yeah, Mayer, obviously, at this point, really got nothing to lose apart from the 6th position that he holds, but very much not a contender in this championship. He has nothing to lose by attacking Bok. He could go for P5. You got to remember, Bok is on the soft tyres.
Yeah, exactly. Bok's on soft tyres. He's got a little bit of a gap before he gets to Robin Panzer as well. So the problem now that Jordan and Simichich have is, tyre wear or not, they are going to have to stay out if they want to win the race.
Because at this point, obviously, Bok is going to be in an interesting position regarding that, because he's going to be on soft rubber. They're pit now. They're going to come up behind him because he's only going to gain time.
Yeah, exactly. He was only 1 second down, so, you know, that's really forced the hand.
And Duval in.
So Duval will lose time.
He is going to lose time. But then again, he's seen Bok do that. He might be copying the strategy. We'll see if he does. Obviously, it will be softs to copy it. I imagine at this point in the race, there's absolutely no reason not to take softs, and he has done. Now, Duval, I imagine, will be overtaken by Bok in the pits here. The overcut obviously not going to work for him, and Bok is going to get out ahead, but Duval's not going to be that far behind in the long run. But Jack Mayer could go for him here. I'll get the DRS, and look how close he is.
Yeah, and even if he does get past, I think the softer tyres will help Duval to fight back at least next lap. Interestingly, that puts Panzer into P3 then, so Burst have 2 cars in the top 3.
Yeah, what a run for Burst at the moment. Obviously, Bok and Duval behind. Bok is already apparently second up faster, and a second in sectors 1 and 3. Apparently he's 2 seconds quicker. Yeah, this is amazing stuff. Let's look, look at that 27.0 in sector 1 this lap around.
Yeah, and sector 1 doesn't really do anything. There's not much of an advantage in sector 1 with fresh rubber anyway. It's pretty much straight turn straight, so that's a big advantage to have. Let's see what he can do in the middle sector when, you know, the tyres are going. I think Maguire may have just retired.
That's a shame. If he has done, he was there. I was a bit further down the order, but obviously retiring at the end of the race. Let's see what Bok does. 38.3, that's 6/10 up, almost. That's more like, 6/10 up on the like of Simracing and Panzer, 3/10 on Jordan, and Liam de Vries is just that purple second sector. So these drivers, that'll be the last time at the end of the lap we really look at, where these drivers on the softs are really scything the time back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely flying. So plenty of speed. Obviously, de Vries faster than Buck in the middle sector. Really forcing their hand. Will they be able to catch Panzer by the end of the race? And if they do, will they have enough tyres left to do anything about it?
Let's check the lap times. Box just crossed the line and has done a 1:39.0, fastest lap of the race. Liam de Vries comes across the line. He's just come out the pits with a 55.2. That was a personal best last sector. So you've got to imagine 39s on the new fastest lap. That's 1.5 seconds a lap on Jordan. And doing the maths there, this is lap 47 we're on now. 4 have been done. 15 times 1.5 is about 20 seconds. They could be on to retake the lead.
They could, but obviously that gap, that delta changes depending on tyre life, and obviously they're going to lose tyre life as they push really hard. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that up. Luke Maguire dropped it out of the final chicane just before the final corner. He was right behind Gerrit de Vries, who got ahead of him earlier in the lap, obviously on the soft tyres. Dropped it, hit the wall, both wings gone, and called it a day.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for him, and well, not the way he wanted to win the race, that much is for certain. So here's hoping next race goes a little bit better for him. Mind you, Liam de Vries, fastest man on track at the moment, it looks like. He set a purple first sector, and he's looking to set a purple second too. Bottas just set a personal best. Not a great second sector from de Vries though, unfortunately. So Bok and de Vries still very much, you know, the favourites to catch back up. But as David Yunt says, the tyres, the softs, have to be used gently. If you ruin them, you've lost your chance of the win.
Yeah, we've seen that already this season. You know, people trying to absolutely pump qualifying laps and then ending up having to pit again when they didn't think they needed to. So very important to keep yourself. I think Wox made a mistake, hit the wall out of turn 9. And that's allowed
Thomas,
3 people through. It's allowed people through. So that's Ragusa, Kersmakers and Ford.
Oh, we'll have to work hard to get back past them then. Oh, Thomas, that's unfortunate. He was running in P14, by the way, obviously dropping down to 17 now as he was in the points. Now he's got a scrap to get back up them, but he still certainly put a very good showing in for himself today. You can't deny him that. Liam de Vries with a new personal best on the 39.2. Yannick Bocco still has the fastest lap, 39.04. And the fastest first sector.
Yeah, and they're just getting quicker and quicker as well. So interesting to see Ali able to save the tyres as they do that. As Vlak loses up to Zapala into the grandstand section. He's only going backwards now, obviously, with older tyres.
Therein lies the question. Can they make them last? Or in Bok's case, can he catch up fast enough? Bok at the moment catching up by about a second a lap. So multiply that by 14, 15. You imagine that he is going to be possibly on the back of Panzer by the end of this race.
Yeah, just slower in the middle sector this time, so too de Vries. So maybe they are starting to lose a little bit of the shimmer of the fresh tyres. So yeah, they've got to make sure they get to the end of the race, because if they have to make another pit stop because they've absolutely shredded the tyres, they're going to lose even more time. So you know, sometimes you do have to realise that maybe 4th is better than a no score if you bin it or 8th. Do you know what I mean? 4th is better, especially when your main rival isn't even in the race.
Yeah, I mean at this point, that's all he already got. But they really, we need to be keeping half an eye on Jordan and Simracing here. There's just over a second between them, so Simracing gets no DRS here. But if he can get into DRS range, he can try and pull back the gap to Jordan here, and that's going to be the real one. Panzer is going to be playing rear gunner like mental to his teammate if Bok can catch up, and Bok is not that far away as it stands.
No, he's not, and like you said, they're getting closer quite quickly. Actually, he's getting closer quicker than I thought he would, so maybe he won't have to save his tyres as much as I thought he would in order to have the crack at the end. He might be there within sort of 5 or 6 laps of where he's going.
Quite possibly. We'll see if that is the case by the end of this race, but really, you know, there are several fights that, you know, are possibly going to be crucial here, and of course, Yannick Bok's continual attack is one of them. I'm looking at Jack Mir and Matthias Musto at the moment, because they're both on the hard tyres and there's only 4 tenths in it.
Yeah, only 4 tenths in it. We've got a nice gap back to Fabrizio Gobi behind, so they don't have to worry about them. So if they can get themselves into a little bit of a battle, you know, that's for the best of the rest pretty much in 6th place, and that would be a fantastic job for either of them. Obviously, they're already doing a fantastic job to do what they're doing on the alternate strategy. Yeah, sixth would be great for Jack Mayer, and obviously Moose, he's shown time and time again that he's really good at making the most of the race.
Yeah, really has shown himself to be another one of those star drivers potentially of the future. One of the stars of tomorrow today is Matthias Moose. And, well, with that Red Archer car behind him, he's had some very good results this season, possibly on for an even better one in the form of P6 here. We'll have to see how that pans out. These two definitely locked in a battle at the moment, as are the likes of Fabrizio Gobi and Stefan Ruot for P8 and P9.
Yeah, Ruot on fresher tyres, but obviously on a different compound, so Gobi will have a bit more tyre life in his hard tyres, but Ruot will have the absolute speed. So let's see what Ruot can do. I think he's just tucked up behind at the moment, probably not able to advance at the moment. Might be just trying to bide his time and make sure that he can make the move towards the end of the race. He knows he's not going to catch Moose and Mayer, so there's no need to rush and ruin his tyres.
Yeah, Moose and Mayer are obviously not going to be caught here, so Gobi in a fight of his own really to hold the position that he's got. And you can't really blame him for that. Definitely going to find himself fighting off Ruot more than he is going to be fighting off anybody else. And Fabrizio Gobi, he's been a bit up and down this season. Some races have gone his way, some haven't. He got a podium, obviously, but then he's had some bad races too. So, bit of an interesting first season for him.
Yeah, and you've got to remember in this race he was without a wing, having made contact with his teammate Kersmakers and Fournier. So to be P8 when the others are down in 14th, 15th, 16th really shows the level of pace he's had to be able to fight back in this race, try and pick up some decent points.
Yeah, Gobi really doing good to get back into that position that he's in as well, and has been a bit of an interesting year for Abruzzi as a team as well. Obviously came out of a very strong year last year, but this year is not really. We all thought coming into this year it's going to be interesting to see that they've gone for the drivers that they've gone for, and obviously in the end of it, obviously they haven't had the best of seasons. Looking at the drivers and team standings coming into this event, Abruzzi were heading into it a bit further down than they might have anticipated at this point of the season, all the way down in 7th. Considering their past, that is a bit of a shock so far, but it's, you know, still some races left to go this season. We can still get them further up the order.
Yeah, of course. What you've got to remember this season is the quality of teams in this championship. You got Burst and you've got Evolution, you've got Adonis, and you think, oh, you know, then Abruzzi you'd expect to be 4th and best of the rest, but then you still think HRT, fantastic newer team, Red Archer, plenty of experience, Edge have always been up there and fast, race winners last season as well with Briliac and Linex. So it's not as easy as you think to get decent results in this championship. There's plenty of talent flowing through, and you have got to be at the top of your game every single race in order to rack points up.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, looking further down the team's order, you've got the likes of Mad KP, you should argue, with the likes of Fabio Sixta, should be further up the order. They're down on 12 points. Then it's Red Arrow right down the back as well on 24. Then Green Stripes, then Cosmo YT1, which all circumstances considered is an excellent result for them this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's with those teams as well. They haven't just been languishing at the back all season. You know, each and every one of them have been involved in some tight racing around about the bottom end of the points. Do you know what I mean? There isn't a distinct back marker. There is not one team that you look at and you think, oh, they're the weak link. You know, everyone contributes to the racing that we get in Super League, and it shows today because we've had some fantastic racing all the way through the field.
Indeed, we have had some fantastic racing, and there is a big gap between the likes of Street Fighter, you know, these mid to back points players. You know, there is a big gap between them on 47 points and Abruzzi on 123. So, you know, it's almost like we've got 2 divisions here, or 3 divisions if you count the top 2 teams. You've got Division 1, which is Adonis and Evolution. Division 2, which is Scuderia Basilea through Abruzzi. And then the 3rd division, which is the teams further back. So a lot of splits in this season, but a lot of interesting racing. No one team has been particularly problematic, has not had a particularly bad season.
No, exactly. And nobody's really had a particularly bad race either. There's all sorts of teams fighting for that 15th position at the moment. So interesting to see. Just having a look at lap times. starting to drop off, but not that much. De Val's actually struggling a little bit more than Yannick Bock at the moment for pace. But Bock now only 2.7 behind Robin Panzar for third.
Yeah, we're on that 52, so 84% of the race done. And it will be a little bit more after this lap has been completed. In fact, yep, 85% now as we enter lap 53 of 61. So, 9 to go.
Yeah, 9 to go then, and it's getting ever closer. Obviously, Moose as well, right up behind the back of Jack Mayer. And Moose started down, all the way down in P16, so Ruolt's not the only person who's made plenty of advancement to get up into the points. So, good job from Moose, all over the back of Mayer. But Mayer's really positioned his car well all race long, and hasn't really looked like losing position.
Indeed, and well, you got to think, obviously, in and amongst all this, Matthias Moose, he's made a great case for himself, but he really wants to attack Jack Mayer a bit more because that P6 would be excellent for him, and as excellent as it would be for Mayer, Moose, you got to feel wants it just as much.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get the maximum out of every race you do, and of course, every single driver out there, whether you're second or whether you're 22nd, you want to get the guy in front of you, because you want to say, right, I've done exactly 100% of what I can achieve in this race. Not every race is going to be brilliant for you, but if you can achieve the maximum, you can come away happy and you can go into the next race with a bit of confidence. So obviously Mayer will want to be sixth in the edge, and Moose will go, well, hang on, I've got a chance for sixth, I'm right behind you, I should be able to make my way through. Fournier right on the back, by the way, of Kersmakers and Ragusa, really fighting up to see if they can recover for some points. For Ragusa at the moment at 14th, Kersmakers at 15th, Fournier 16th.
Yeah, obviously Jeffrey Fournier 16th at the moment, just outside of the points, the likes of Kersmakers, who is just ahead, but definitely looking like Lauren Kersmakers will earn points today. And it could be that he may get them, he may not. Ragusa obviously fighting out too. Some interesting battles for these final point positions. As we alluded to, there's definitely a good mid to backfield scrap going on in Superleague at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And, we were saying just now about teams, where should they be in the championship? Well, you've got HRT, you've got the Britain, you've got an Adonis who are top of the championship down in 14, 15, 16. Just shows the quality throughout the field. De Val into the 138s now, 138.9 on the last lap. So De Val starting to push, and Bock goes fastest in the first sector.
Yeah, De Val really pushing hard right now, but as you got to consider as well, if he's going the fastest, Bock is not going to be going too much slower than him. And in fact, Robin Panzar right within shooting range now. He's 11.1 seconds down on Jordan. And you got to think Panzar and Bock obviously fighting hard here, doing a fairly good job.
Yeah, the problem that Bock's going to have is that Jordan and Simracing are starting to accelerate a little bit. Jordan looks as if he's got the measure of Simracing's 2-second gap, and he looks comfortable for the win at the moment, but obviously plenty of time left for things to change. Simracing holding back, looks happy for second. Bock all over the back of Panzar. Maybe De Val let his tyres breathe a little bit at the start of this final stint, and now he's going to attack, see what he can get out of this race.
Yeah, really, obviously, attack mode now for Bock. Try and get into that P3. Panzar's going to be defending like a madman, so really needs to go for it here, and really, you feel, has got to do something to try and hold Bock back. Otherwise, he's going to be attacking his teammates soon.
Yeah, and Bock needs to get a move on because De Val's closing in 0.3 faster in the middle sector. And let's see what it was, another 0.3 faster in the final sector. So De Val's got plenty of speed on these two at the moment. Bock has to get through ASAP.
Yeah, Bock has really got to try and get through and push past Panzar, who will be defending like his life depends on it. But, look at this. Bock's very close. He's got the DRS. Is he going to go for it? Of course he is. He's going to dive down the inside. Bock's going to he's got to give him just enough space. But they make contact. Bock now to the outside of Panzar. He's going to try and get in. But Panzar positioning the car perfectly. But then Bock gets the inside. And it really is all over. Panzar down to fourth. And Bock free to attack Simracing.
Yeah, brilliant defensive driver from Panzar. Really made Bock work for it, especially when Bock's on the softer tyres. But good, clean racing. Both gave each other enough room. We didn't see as much contact as we've seen in turn 5 all race long. And good move from Bock up to P3. Panzar will be looking in his mirrors at the ever faster De Val now, who will be getting bigger in his mirrors.
Yeah, De Vries obviously in the mirrors is going to be a concern for Panzer considering Box just got through, but he's got clear out to fight Simracing now, and Jordan will be reveling in that because his teammate could make it a 1-2.
Yes, a bit much probably the gap to make up in 6 laps. I can't see someone just losing that amount of time. But you know, anything can happen. Box taking a lot of life out of his tyres as Dennis Jordan all of a sudden does a personal best lap, so he's got plenty left in the tyres. You'd probably think then that Simracing has a bit left as well.
Yeah, Simracing has obviously still got a little bit life left in the tyres. Can still pretty hard to offset the likes of Bach, but there is a big tyre difference at the moment between the two of them. You've got to remember, hards versus soft, and those softs are relatively new.
Yeah, Soft's relatively new, but he's been pushing them really, really hard almost qualifying laps. Then he's had a battle with Robin Panzer, so he's been offline. He'll pick up a little bit of the dirt from offline, so that'll hurt him. He's only 4 tenths faster on that lap, obviously with the battle. Let's see what he can do on this lap. 3 tenths faster already through sector 1. Is that going to be enough? How much faster can he go through second and third sector? Really needs to be sort of 1.2, 1.3 seconds faster now to even have a sniff at the end of the race.
Yeah, obviously, definitely that. But thinking about it, we are 90% of the race the way through. If you had to pick a driver of the day, and I know it's a bit early for that, Ewan, but if you had to pick a driver of the day, who would it be?
I mean, Jordan has done a really good job out in front, so he's got to be up there. Jack Mayer's done it absolutely fantastically in 6th. You know, he's really made the strategy work as well as he possibly could do. But Stefan Ruot, after starting at the back, you know, managed to defend really well against Masuli, who was on 2-step compound softer than him, and has managed to really reap the rewards for that. Up in 9th at the moment on the back of Fabrizio Gobi. See if he can get 8th. But yeah, if he can get 9th, that's a really, really good race for Stefan Ruot.
Yeah, obviously, Rualt in the moment as well. P9 chasing down Gobi for P8, but Stefan Rualt, another driver who's really made advantage of situations that helped. I mean, the likes of, I think it was Saracino and somebody else who came together, remember? It was Kilt and Saracino, and he's got ahead of both of them.
Yeah, exactly. He's really made the most of his strategy. Here he is right on the back of Fabrizio Gobi then. Probably have a chance as well with softer rubber.
Yeah, obviously that is the opportunity there. But if I had to pick a driver of the day, personally, I mean, Dennis Jordan is a very good pick, as is the likes of Simracing and Bach. Personally, I'll go Mayer. I mean, P6 in only his 3rd Super League race. He's had 2 prior to this. And Saracino was out with brake failure. That is what we expected. Possibly someone to retire with brake failure. But you got to admit, Jack Mayer, as I was going to say, possible driver of the day candidate. I mean, P6 in his 3rd race, nothing to be laughed at.
No, absolutely not. Terrible luck for Saracino, who's been so impressive today. Plenty of pace in that green stripes car to be in the top 12 all the way through, but brake failure, absolutely heartbreaking. Interestingly, usually we see brake failures in the last 2 laps of the races here in Super League, so quite an early brake failure with 4 or 5 laps left. But it is a really demanding track, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Jack Mayer got a few more very good results in Super League this year if he is in that car for a little bit longer. Obviously, Dan Brewer not able to make the previous race because of a karting accident. Obviously, still not in a state to drive at the moment. We do hope Dan's back soon, but Mayer definitely a standout in that Edge car.
Absolutely make Edge happy that they've still got points coming in, even with Dan Brewer out. Terrible to not see Dan Brewer in a car. Very much like watching Dan racing. Got plenty of pace and usually quite exciting. He's not scared of making a move either. So yeah, get well soon.
Right, so Liam Devaldo now on Robin Panzer. You see 4 and 5 here. Deval and Panzer could be interesting because Deval is on those softer tyres. Remember, he'll have more grip in the corners. Saracino obviously retiring after that brake failure. But the drivers are going to worry about the brakes now because if Saracino's can fail, you obviously have 2 little ducts, and anyone on the same duct will be worried.
Yeah, absolutely. And some teams tend to have the brake failures a bit more often than others, so maybe watch out for Thomas Flatt.
Now, drive-through penalty removed from David Feidick. Now, as a result of that, that will be investigated after the race, but Feidick has got a penalty removed. So obviously, if that would have been applicable, he'll get it applied again. But where is David Feidick in the run of things? He's P20, so he's quite far down the order anyway. Second to
Yeah, so I wonder what triggered that then, see what happens
Possibly
after the
track
race.
limit violations, in which case, Jenny Simracing is going to be sweating bullets.
Yeah, possibly, but then, you know, he was doing the same through qualifying, so it's clearly the line that both he and Panzer were doing is clearly acceptable because obviously the curbs are part of the track, so I don't think UNA will have too much to worry about. Fournier now right behind Yukpeka Lally for P13. Fournier's made plenty of ground up on the green stripes and goes around the outside for P13 easy as you like, and then Ragusa and Fournier up to P12 and 13.
Yep, indeed. Obviously, Giuseppe Ragusa, P12, Jeffrey Fournier, P13. 13th, not terrible for Fournier, considering this is his first race back in Super League for a while. And, you know, he's done fairly good. Obviously, not massive points for Adonis coming out of today then, considering, I mean, Duvall's going to get a P5, but it's going to hurt them in the teams a little bit. But Fournier, with a great step-in performance here. Liam Duval, speaking of which, is trying to have a go at Panzer, who gets a little loose into the corner there.
Yeah, what you've got to remember with Fournier though is he was pointing the wrong way without the rear wing, so really good recovery drive to get 13th and get any points for Adonis. Duval really though cannot get past Panzer at the moment, but they've got a bit of traffic in front. With a street fighter, I think it is, or is it Vincent Goot and the Mad Cape?
One of the two, certainly, but right now at least, Vincent Good, I'm looking at his last of the runners in P21, so he is going to be obviously continuing on as best he can. And
It was the parlor he got out of the way nicely, so that gives Panzer a little bit of space in front to think about what he's doing. He can look purely in the mirrors now.
Dennis Jordan, though, about to come out to complete lap 59. This is the last lap but one now. And it looks like a dead set victory to add to his victory in Belgium. He's going to take a second here at Singapore.
Yeah, like I said, he's had plenty of pace after the summer break. It's great to see him back fighting up top. And yeah, just got 2 more laps to keep it in check. But he's got so much pace, so much more pace than Simracing. Simracing's really fallen back from Dennis Jordan. So great pace from Dennis Jordan. And obviously Buck has managed to get Panzer as well.
Quite so. And Yannick Bock, again, a very respectable performance for him. That's going to increase his Drivers' Championship lead from 17 points plus 15. You do the maths, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to give him about 32 points over Maguire. That's a race in a bit.
It is a race in a bit, and look at the gap now as well. He's not that far off Simracing. Probably 1 lap too short of being on the back of him. 1.6 seconds faster on the last lap. So yeah, he's just going to fall just shy, I think, of being able to do something about it. So going to be so close on the last lap.
Going to be very close-knit stuff indeed, and it has been a race of attrition. Giuseppe Saracino, Luke Maguire, Tom Parker, Magic Ninek, Fabio Sixta, Augustin Canapino, all out of this race for various reasons. But yeah, tough track, Singapore. We mentioned this at the start. It is a difficult one. And Dennis Jordan now is coming round the final couple of corners on the second to the last lap to start the last lap. And he is set to make it 2 from 3 at the moment. He won in Belgium, and now he's set to win here too. 1 more lap for Dennis Jordan, the race leader.
I think David Fidek's just on the fastest lap of the race, but then lost the front wing on the next lap round.
Ah, David. Oh, well, there'll be points. There'll be bonus money for that if he keeps the fastest lap of the race, obviously. And he'll show at the very least he's still got the pace. But
yeah, I think it was. I think Kilk went round. Kilk went round at turn 5. That's allowed Masciuli through into T10, but then Kilk was sort of stuck on the curb on the outside of T5. Fidek's come through a lap down, hit Kilk and lost his front wing.
yeah, Fidek on a 38.6, currently the fastest lap of the race. We'll see if anyone else beats that by the end of this race. But Dennis Jordan with a bit of traffic to negotiate now. Still 8 seconds ahead again. He's Simracing 2's closest threat is Yannick Bock. Then it's Panzer and Duval. That is a developing fight as well. We'll see if anything happens by the end of the race on that front. Gobi Ruol, one to watch as well. Mia Moose as well, to keep an eye on as well. Several drivers still battling for positions here.
Yeah, Bock didn't quite get into DRS range on the final lap, so probably only 1 more chance for him to get through. That'll be down into T14, but I don't think he's going to be close enough.
Not going to be close enough ultimately at the end of the day. And, well, Yanni Simracing, you could say the same for. He was very close to Dennis Jordan in the early running of this race.
Deval and Panzer side by side out of the hairpin down into the.
Oh,
into
yes,
turn
they are.
14.
Is Devar going to go on the outside? Yes, he is, but then Panzer's going to get it back. We'll have to come back to that, unfortunately, because Dennis Jordan rounding the final couple of corners now. He's got a red hour in front of him, and he will come around the final corner now to make it 2 wins out of 3 races. Dennis Jordan wins the Singapore Grand Prix in imperious fashion. From Yannick Simic, he'll come across in second, and Yannick Bock in third, who is forced to yield in the end. Deval and Panzer. Deval's through into P4. Panzer is going to finish 5th by the looks of it. Still a respectable result for the Swede. Now we turn our attention to Mir and Moose, the next big battle. Can Mir hold P6?
It's so close. Panzer did well actually not to torpedo the ball into the chicane. Here comes Jack Mayer through under the grandstand. Only 4 more corners to go. He'll go right and then left. Not really anywhere for Matthias Moose to get through. And Jack Mayer should, if he gets round the final corner fine, get P6.
Oh, he gets a bit of a clip on there, but he's managed to hold it, and it is P6. A sensational 6th for Jack Mayer. Personal driver of the day for me there. Well done, Jack. You've earned that. And some. Matthias Moose forced to rely and forced to field himself, forced to stick with 7th. Stefan Bruel finishes 8th. He got past Eros Mashuli in P9 from Fabrizio Gobi 10th, from Kilt, from Ragusa, from Fournier, who's going to end up 13th by the looks of it, from Kiersmakers, and Yuka-Pekka Lalu hoping to round out the points unless, yep, he is hoping to round out the points. Kiersmakers going to be 14th, Fournier 13th, Ragusa 12th, Kilk 11th, there's your top 15, and Dennis Jordan 2 times the winner now this year.
Yeah, Ruel was already ahead of Masuli. I think either he got into Fabrizio Gobi on the final lap or Gobi just made a mistake on his own because Gobi was in front, ends up coming 10th.
Yeah, Fabrizio Gobi at the end still gets the top 10, but it is all Dennis Jordan here in Super League today. He's the Singapore master, and he gets the race win. Yanni Simic second from Yannick Bock is our podium. And it's going to be interesting to see, A, whether my run of internet issues continues into the interview today, and B, whether we're able to get them for said interviews.
Just very quickly, Germano Zapata, the fastest lap of the race on the final lap, 1:38.107.
Ah, Germano! There you go. Found the speed at the end. And Zapata with the fastest lap. Congus can't say fairer than that. Well, that's going to be beneficial for him, obviously, and we'll be hoping to get our drivers into the race for race broadcast room for interviews soon. But what a race that was, Ewan Gale.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it seems to only be classics when I come into the commentary box. You know, it was really very different to actually Spa and Monza. It was all to do with strategy and looking after your tyres. A few brilliant overtaking moves as well, especially Bock and Val on Panzer at the end. Like I said, Panzer really clean racing, knowing that he was on older, harder tyres. He didn't absolutely nerf Deval out of the way at the chicane and realised that Deval was a bit faster and had the line and sort of came home and took 5th.
Yeah, I took 5th in the end, and a very good 5th it was from Robin Panzer. And, well, an interesting race in the end for all involved, I think, at Singapore here. And it always does throw up these interesting sort of races, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, you've got the likes of your Monzas and your Belgians, which are absolute stunners from start to finish. But this was a race of interesting proportions too, so you can't really fault it for that. And we'll be seeing if we can get our drivers into the interview room shortly. Obviously, Dennis Jordan will be hoping to interview our race winner. Yannick Bock is our 3rd placer. Yanni Simic is the 2nd placer, and possibly a couple of other people as well. But we've got to wait for them to turn up first.
Yeah, and obviously there'll be a little bit of a debrief, I imagine, within the teams, and maybe a few things with the race director as well. So, yeah, we'll wait for them to come in.
Oh, it looked like Fabrizio Gobi was struggling with failed brakes at the end of that race as well. That's possibly why he ended up in P10. But, oh, that's definitely going to be an interesting one to see how that continues. Possibly get the juicy details on that. I don't know, but seems like our interview subjects aren't very forthcoming. We're going to have to wait for them.
A long race as well for them. So, yeah, I can imagine if they want a little bit of a breather.
Oof, well, I mean, a breather, I think we need and all as well. I think now might be good a time as ever to, go across the rest of the calendar. I mean, we've got 4 races left to go this season. 37 points or so is the lead for Yannick Bock now, and he could stand to take the title by the 2nd race if he has 2 very good races, and Maguire doesn't.
He could, but what's interesting about Yannick is he's struggling to get into the top two at the moment. So, what he is doing, and this is what we say every week pretty much, is you keep out of trouble and you pick up points through consistency, and it's going to help you. He has been consistent, he is picking up points. And with a gap like this now, he doesn't need to push to win races. Obviously, everyone wants to win races, but he can really sit in and make sure that he's looking after his car, keep picking up the points. And yeah, Maguire might come back and win some races, but Bock really does have the upper hand.
Yeah, Bach really has the upper hand in the championship at the moment. And I'm noticing we do have an interview potential to be had with none other than Chris Butcher, who joins us now in the interview room. It's been a bit of a quiet day so far in terms of the interviews, but we have Chris Butcher to join us and start things off. Chris, welcome to the broadcast room. Great to have you with us. How was that race then from your point of view?
It was very hard work. You should see the colour of my t-shirt now.
Oh,
It is pretty grim.
oh, I don't think I want to, mate. Oh, no, I imagine that would have been a pretty hard work, though. The Red Hour as well. Obviously, David Feidick running down the end of the order at the end of it. But you two started at the back of the grid, but you made your way up. Definitely very, very well.
Yeah, I thought we were going to sneak some decent points there, to be honest with you, because we were running sort of, towards the top 10 at one point, but the pace just wasn't there on the long run. Obviously, we elected to start from the back of the grid, which I think helped us because it meant we could avoid a lot of the carnage that was happening. But yeah, we just really struggled on the long run pace, and obviously David got caught up in a few incidents as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but it's been an interesting year for Red Arrow. Definitely, obviously, several ups and several downs. But you yourself seem to have had a decent season so far. You have enjoyed it, haven't you?
I have obviously. I'm disappointed that I've not been more competitive. Like I have been in other rungs on the ladder, so to speak. But I mean, one of the big things that we struggle with at Red Arrow is we're a very small team. It's just me and David. So there's no engineering support or anything like that. So it's kind of incredibly difficult because we're managing our own strategy and and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we're definitely at a disadvantage on that front. But we're working hard and we're enjoying the racing. So that's kind of what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed. That is what it's about at the end of the day. Chris Butcher, thanks very much for joining us. And, well, good luck for the last 4 races this season to you and Red Arrow.
Thanks very much.
Great to have Chris in the broadcast booth. It really is. We all love a bit of Butchie. And, well, we can go from him to some slightly more successful drivers now in the form of, well, would you believe it, our race winner in the form of Dennis Jordan, who we're about to drag into the broadcast room, having given up an opportunity to finish whatever he's saying. And we're going to bring Yanni Simracing in as well, because it's best to have them both together. So we'll start with you, Dennis. Fantastic job. Congratulations on the win. Imperious stuff.
Thank you.
So obviously, starting for you was obviously, you got into a good rhythm at the start of the race, and then it was really trying to get through, and eventually you managed to get yourself into the win. There wasn't really much of it to say other than that. You were 8 seconds ahead of Yanni Simracing at the end of the race. That seemed pretty easy from where we were sat.
Well, yeah, I couldn't really believe it. Yanni made a mistake there and outbraked himself at the end of Sector 2. So I guess that's the chance you just need to take. Doesn't come too often in life. So yeah, after that, it was just pretty controlled driving. It's so hard to pass here on this track. So yeah, I don't know. I had a couple of laps in the end there where I tried to push to, I don't know, get away from Yanni so he wouldn't be in DRS in case Yanni would catch him. But yeah, tires were still so good. It was still pretty controlled driving.
Indeed, and well, for you, obviously, another great victory to follow up your victory at Spa, and it really was that move at the start that possibly helped you get there. And well, we're seeing a bit of a resurgence from form from you, Dennis. It seems then.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, Monza wasn't too great, to be honest. So let's hope that the next race is more like this one and Spa and not like most of the others this year.
Yeah, indeed. And well, obviously for Evolution, this has been a great race as well. First and third. This is going to put you in prime position to take the team's championship with it not being such a good take for Adonis Engineering. So that must be firmly in your sights as well.
Yeah, that's nice. That helps a lot. Obviously, shame that Adam had to miss the race. Happy birthday. But I guess that's the
Oh
reason he
yeah,
couldn't drive.
it's his
So
birthday today, isn't it? I forgot to mention that. Happy birthday, Adam. Hope you've enjoyed it.
so yeah, that's obviously not ideal for them. But yeah, we can't really do anything else than just take the points.
Indeed, indeed. Dennis, thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, in fantastic result on the victory today. We move now to Yerny Simitic, who joins us in P2 of this race. Yerny, great result as well. That was a very interesting race, and you pulled off a good result.
Yeah, I suppose so. Happy to still be P2 in the end after the tires completely died. I have talked to Dennis just after the race, and I don't understand what happened, because he's like, I was really trying to go as slow as possible, but still staying in DRS, reserved to the max. But he was just too quick. I had to start pushing, and then in the end he had so much fresher tires than myself, and I just fell off the cliff in the last 2 laps. So something to analyze myself. But yeah, that's about it.
Indeed, and well, a lot of interesting moments throughout the race for you. What was the most interesting moment from that race for you? Because obviously, you being in first and second right up there, you'll have seen a lot of interesting things happen. So what was the most interesting for you?
Interesting. Well,
What made you just wake up a bit more?
yeah, interesting in a good way. Interesting was qualifying the first lap, because in sector 3, in every corner there was a crashed car, so it was a bit difficult to concentrate, but I was laughing a lot. In the race, to be honest, there were no like positively interesting moments, because I saw that, okay, yeah, I was able to preserve the tires in the first stint, keep it ahead. But then it was just like going worse and worse. I was really lucky to stay in P2 after the pit stops. So I guess that the most interesting moment was when I tried to correct my brake mod. I have this squash ball brake mod.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's not staying in place as it should be, or as it used to. So like one lap I reached for the squash ball to correct it, and it was almost like just barely touching. So I was like with right foot with heel on the gas, and with toes on the squash ball trying to correct it. And in the last few laps, I don't know, I think the squash ball burst.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I was basically holding it in place on every straight, putting it back.
Wow.
Difficult to concentrate, but yeah, I guess that was the most interesting thing in the race.
That is not a situation I ever want to find myself in, Yerny Simitic. I will grant you that. Well, good race for you in the end, though. P2, you are about 60 points behind Yannick Bock, championship leader, but mathematically still in the championship. So there's hope for you yet. Yerny, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I believe, unfortunately, that's the end of the interviews for today, because a lot of drivers have not been forthcoming. Obviously, an interesting race all round. But Ewan Gale, what do you make of all that then?
Well, it was a very controlled race up front. When Simracing was in front, obviously he controlled it very well. Obviously that little mistake into the hairpin cost him, and then Jordan had some fantastic pace at the end of the race to create that gap. And well, in the end, he was in a class of one, really, wasn't he? So that's 2 wins for Jordan when I've been in the Superleague commentary box. So just had a bit of a joke on chat saying that he wants me in a bit more often.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You should. If that's the case, he's good luck, John. Go engineer him or something.
Yeah, clearly, exactly.
And then that would take you out in the commentary box. So don't go do that.
But it is good to see DJ back on top, because we've seen that he's had the pace. And he had a few tech issues at the start of the season, so it's good that that's all sorted out and he's back where he should be.
Indeed, yes. And well, I guess that just about rounds it all up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I'd like to thank Ewan Gale, my co-commentator, for providing such colour to the broadcast as he has. I'd like to thank our cameraman, Gerrit de Vries, for keeping the visuals firmly on the action. And I'd like to thank you once again for watching. From everyone here at GPVWC, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the Russian Grand Prix. But until then, Dennis Jordan, Street Circuit Master, 2 wins from 3 races. Back to his best. Very much so. Good night.